disappeared on Saturday, October 17th, 2009. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Morgan Harrington's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. A beautiful 20-year-old Virginia Tech co-ed is looking forward to an evening of fun at a Metallica concert.
I mean, Morgan was kind of like champagne. Morgan was bubbly and cause for celebration.
At the concert, Morgan leaves her seat and doesn't return.
Even though she was warned that if she left, she would not be allowed to re-enter, for some unexplained reason, Morgan walked out the front doors.
Strangers report seeing her later that night.
It's 3:45 in the morning, and I was like, why is she out here with a mini skirt on, out here, her legs out, and she's with these three guys?
But her friends and family never see her again.
It's a strange place and time to be where your best case scenario is you're hoping your daughter is held against her will.
The police struggle to find viable leads in the case.
We had a girl we knew was missing, we had a purse, we had a cell phone, and that's it. I remember looking at the investigators and saying, we have a problem.
It's Saturday, October 17th, 2009. 20-year-old Virginia Tech junior Morgan Harrington is at her parents' house in Roanoke, Virginia, getting ready for a night out with friends.
Morgan liked getting ready. I think girls do. The part of the fun is the anticipation of going out. So we chose an outfit together that Morgan thought was danceable, but looked nice, and chose her jewelry.
Morgan has been living independently for 3 years now. She shares an apartment near campus with a friend. But she frequently drops by her parents' house, just 45 minutes away.
Morgan came home probably, I would say, twice a week, sometimes just for a couple hours.
So it seemed like it was a lot easier for Morgan to throw her laundry in the car and come here and push it in the door and say, Mama, here it is, and flop down and watch TV with Dan, and miraculously end up having had dinner and spent some time with her papa and have clean laundry all at the same time.
Tonight, she is going to a much-anticipated Metallica concert. A huge music fan, Morgan got the ticket as a gift from her father. For Morgan, this concert is the event of the year.
As soon as she heard that they were coming, she made sure that when tickets came available online, that Dan was there and bought tickets. And those tickets were magneted to our refrigerator for months, waiting for the day to come.
Morgan settles on a black vintage t-shirt with the band Pantera logo on it. A black miniskirt, black tights, and black boots. She completes her look with some family heirloom jewelry and a black purse that she can wear as a backpack.
She looked lovely, but Morgan could wear a burlap sack and look lovely.
Morgan has a very close relationship with her parents, Dan and Jill.
It's a wonderful time in the life of a parent when you finally have, it's not a peer-level relationship, but an adult relationship with your children. And Morgan had gotten there.
Dan and Jill enjoyed watching the youngest of their two children blossom from a spirited little girl into a beautiful and mature young woman.
Morgan was a lot of fun. I mean, Morgan was kind of like champagne. Morgan was bubbly and cause for celebration.
A blonde-haired, blue-eyed stunner, Morgan Dana Harrington has the bright personality to match her looks.
Morgan was this really sweet, beautiful girl. I always said that she was as beautiful inside as she was on the outside.
Now in her third year of college, Morgan is planning on becoming a teacher when she graduates. Although she prides herself on her independence, Morgan still sometimes struggles with her finances. She relies on her father to help her. In fact, on Sunday after the concert, she plans on coming back to her parents' house just for that reason.
The plan had been for Morgan to come back on Sunday, and I was going to help her with math and also help her balance her checkbook, which was not one of her favorite things to do.
By noon that Saturday, Morgan is out the door. The plan is to pick up her roommate Amy and 2 other friends before heading to the concert at the John Paul Jones Arena at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville.
I believe what they were planning to do was to spend the night after the concert in Harrisonburg because it's closer, and then she was coming back.
Later that afternoon, Morgan calls her father on his cell phone to check in. She's picked up Amy, and the 2 have just arrived at James Madison University, where they are meeting the rest of the crew.
The last time I spoke with Morgan was around 2 or 2:30 when she called me from James Madison to let me know she had arrived safely.
At 7 p.m., the John Paul Jones Arena at the University of Virginia is bustling with Metallica fans. Morgan and her 3 friends take their seats as the opening band warms up the crowd. At about 8:15 p.m., Morgan tells her friends she is going to the restroom. When she is not back half an hour later, Morgan's friend Sarah calls her cell phone to find out where she is. Morgan tells her she ended up outside the arena and can't get back in. The venue has a strict no re-entry policy. Since Sarah has Morgan's car key, Morgan tells her she'll find a ride home and hangs up the phone. Sunday, October 18th. Dan Harrington is expecting his daughter home so they can balance her checkbook. Morgan's mother, Jill, is at church, as she always is on Sundays, and Dan is enjoying a quiet morning at home.
So I was doing my usual thing, and I wasn't concerned because I thought she would be home about noon.
At 11 a.m., Dan gets a phone call that leaves him puzzled, but not yet alarmed.
I had received a call about maybe 11 o'clock from the University of Virginia police who told me that someone had turned in a purse that was found, and it was Morgan's, and with her ID in the purse. And I thought that was strange, but then I thought, well, you know, maybe getting in the car, Morgan dropped her purse, and boy, she was really going to be angry.
I can remember Dan turning to me and saying, gosh, you won't believe it. University of Virginia has called and someone has found Morgan's purse. But I don't think he realized the importance and the impact of it. But I could just feel my face go white because I knew something bad had happened. If someone found Morgan's purse in a parking lot, my question immediately was, where is Morgan?
Coming up, troubling reports of Morgan's appearance outside of the concert baffle and unnerve her parents.
The last place that Morgan Harrington was seen around 9:30 would have been the Copley Street Bridge, trying to catch a ride, hitchhiking.
"20-year-old Morgan Harrington fails to show up at her parents' house the morning after a rock concert at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. Morgan's father, Dan, gets a call from the UVA police, alerting him about Morgan's lost purse.
It's one of those moments where you know your world is getting ready to change. We immediately started to get on the phone and try and locate Morgan's friends and find Morgan.
When we called them, they told us that they had not seen Morgan since the middle of the concert, and told us that Morgan had left her seat, ultimately left the arena. I called the police at University of Virginia and told them that Morgan was missing.
The University of Virginia police take the Harringtons' concerns very seriously. The officers conduct a search of the immediate area surrounding the John Paul Jones Arena. Now, in the overflow parking lot near the athletic fields, they find more telling evidence. Morgan's cell phone, with its battery missing.
The additional items were found on Sunday when the detective went over to the area where the purse was found. It only confirmed again my concern that something horrible had happened to Morgan.
By Sunday night, the Harringtons are frantic. They still haven't heard from Morgan, and they begin to fear the worst. After a sleepless night, in the early morning hours of Monday, October 19th, Morgan's parents make the 2-hour drive from Roanoke to Charlottesville to talk to Virginia State Police, who are now taking over the investigation.
Well, initially, the investigation was focused on a missing person, but there was no indication that there was any foul play in those first few days after she was reported missing. According to her friends, they indicated that it was not unusual for her to, go off on her own, to spend some time with another friend and to leave and then show back up the next day.
The investigators' first task is to retrace Morgan's steps on the night of her disappearance. They interview Morgan's 3 friends. According to them, Morgan had not left her seat prepared to leave the concert that night.
She did not have her keys when she became separated from her friends to go to the bathroom. Nor was there a planned rendezvous point after the concert was over.
Morgan received a cell phone call from her friend Sarah at 8:48 p.m. She told Sarah that she was unable to re-enter the arena and she was looking for a way to get back in. And finally, Morgan just told her that she was going to find her, basically she was going to find a ride. And that was the last phone contact that anybody had with Morgan.
They even looked for her after the concert. They hung around the venue, went down to a local restaurant and tried to find her, and after many hours in the morning, they went back to Harrisonburg, Virginia, where they originated.
In a crowded public space like the John Paul Jones Arena, it's nearly impossible to avoid surveillance cameras. Investigators quickly locate video from Saturday night.
There are numerous businesses in that area, service stations, grocery stores, banks. We were able to obtain all of the video footage, surveillance video footage in that area.
Frame by frame, the investigators examine hundreds of hours of grainy surveillance footage collected from dozens of businesses.
None of the video footage that we reviewed revealed any evidence of what happened to Morgan. Nothing.
I felt certain we would have found at least a 2 or 3 second shot of Morgan Harrington outside the venue, but that just did not happen. And I can't explain it. I can only tell you that of all the video we have, there's absolutely nothing relevant to Morgan that we're aware of.
Next, police turn to the media, trying to find witnesses who might have spotted Morgan that night.
Anyone who may have seen Morgan or a young lady matching this description after October 17th, which was Saturday night, should report it to the police.
The purpose of the press conference was to try to make up time that had been lost, since she had been missing for many, many hours prior to us getting there. So we were going to flood the local media with information about Morgan Harrington as we knew it at the time.
She has long blonde hair and blue eyes. She was wearing a black t-shirt, black knee-high boots, black tights, and a black miniskirt.
I would estimate probably we interviewed over 100 people in the first 3 or 4 days of the investigation.
Ultimately, here's what we had to begin with. We had a girl we knew was missing. We had a purse. We had a cell phone. and that's it. And that's not a whole lot to work with.
While the detectives conduct witness interviews, multiple agencies comb the area around the John Paul Jones Arena for any physical evidence.
We had a tremendous amount of resources here with troopers, with canines, with helicopters, and that went on for about 2.5 days.
And we were unable to locate any other items of evidence in that area.
It's a strange place and time to be where your best case scenario is you're hoping your daughter is held against her will. But that's where we were.
By now, Morgan has been missing for more than 48 hours. Jill and Dan Harrington try to keep their hope alive.
I'd like to say if Morgan is out there and hears us, please come home. It was our daughter, and we wanted to make an appeal to Morgan or to the person who took Morgan to please let her go free. We realized the only thing that we could do to help Morgan was to be as public as possible.
And to do that, we had to be accessible to anyone who came calling. So we didn't turn down anybody.
And now to the search for 20-year-old Virginia Tech student Morgan Harrington. Good morning to both of you, and thank you for joining us. Obviously, this is a very difficult time for your family.
Thank you for having us.
The community and a nation rallies behind the Harrington family. Within 2 days, $100,000 is raised for information leading to Morgan's return. The band Metallica offers up additional reward money.
James Hetfield, who is with Metallica, called me and said that he was so sorry for Morgan's situation, and he offered a reward of $50,000.
Metallica also posts a message to their fans on the band's webpage, asking for any video taken at the concert that might help the investigation. As witness after witness comes forward online and through the police tip line, a bizarre picture of Morgan's movements outside the arena begins to emerge. At about 8:50 p.m., Morgan is spotted outside the ticket booth area.
Morgan, for whatever reason, started heading towards the main entrance, even though she was warned that if she left, she would not be allowed to re-enter. For some unexplained reason, Morgan walked out the front doors.
No one understands how her trip to the bathroom landed Morgan outside of the arena, since there are 18 clearly marked women's restrooms inside.
We identified some witnesses who were outside about to enter the arena, and who encountered Morgan out there, and they said that she seemed to be a little incapacitated in some way.
Up until now, there has been no information about Morgan's behavior. But soon, multiple eyewitnesses begin giving matching accounts. They say Morgan was acting erratically outside the arena. Some reports suggest she may have sustained an injury on her chin. Though Morgan's friends admit she'd been drinking alcohol, they say she was not intoxicated.
But we don't know what happened from the time she left that seat in Section 312 until the time she wound up outside. So we don't know if she was slipped a drug. We know that she probably fell. Based on the abrasion, it wouldn't have appeared to have been a serious head wound, but we don't know that. And then certainly we know outside the venue she was fumbling through her purse, had dropped her purse and spilled its contents, and that would be inconsistent with someone who had their wits about them.
The witnesses who encountered Morgan outside the arena told us that they offered Morgan assistance, asked her if she needed help or did she need a ticket or to get in, and she said no, she had a ticket, but she refused any kind of assistance that anybody offered her.
After compiling accounts from over 100 independent eyewitnesses, the investigators have a clearer picture of Morgan's movements outside the John Paul Jones Arena. It leads them to the Copley Road Bridge over the railroad tracks to the west of the arena.
The last place that Morgan Harrington was seen around 9:30 would have been the Copley Street Bridge, trying to catch a ride, hitchhiking.
This revelation bewilders and further alarms Morgan's parents.
They said that they had two different sources that placed Morgan on the bridge, and it was hard to process that. It's very atypical behavior for Morgan. To my knowledge, Morgan has not hitchhiked before. It's not, these kids all have cars. You know, you don't hitchhike.
We have a girl that's exposed now to some cold weather and some drizzle. We have a girl who doesn't have a cell phone that works. We have a desperate individual. We have a girl that's not thinking clearly. So when you're not thinking clearly, you're going to do things you normally wouldn't do. So while it wouldn't be normal for Morgan Harrington to hitchhike on that particular night, we believe she was hitchhiking out of desperation.
Coming up, another more disturbing sighting of Morgan comes to light.
And I was like, why is she out here with a mini skirt on, out here, her legs out, and she's with these three guys?
Virginia Tech junior Morgan Harrington is missing after leaving a rock concert at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. Witness accounts last place her on the Copley Road Bridge, apparently hitchhiking at 9:30 p.m. that evening. The police continue searching the area around the University of Virginia campus.
We searched the entire tunnel system under the University of Virginia. We ran more dogs just to see, did we miss something? And we actually started considering potential dump sites, body sites, and we actually did some covert searches of those sites.
But search after search, the investigators come up empty. As days and weeks go by, the hope of finding Morgan or solving her disappearance begins to grow dim.
At some point, your search has to be reasonable, and you have to consider your resources and what other obligations do you have to other investigations. We did not stop our searches until we were confident that we had reasonably searched the areas that need to be searched and beyond.
By December 16th, 8 weeks after Morgan vanished, investigators stopped searching.
It's frustrating and demoralizing to feel that people would quit on Morgan.
To keep their daughter in the public's mind, Morgan's parents continue to engage the media.
And to the person who has taken Morgan from us, please just let her go.
This story took on a life of its own, and that's needed when you have someone who's missing. And we figured out also that keeping Morgan's story alive kept pressure on the police.
The day after Morgan disappeared, Charlottesville's weekly paper, The Hook, launched its own investigation into the Morgan Harrington case.
I happen to be a reporter that focuses on crime, and in particular, crimes against women. It was pretty quickly apparent within a couple of days that this was going to be a really high-profile case.
Reporter Courtney Stewart begins digging through the hundreds of witness accounts online and plugging into the town gossip to see if she can unearth any new information in the case.
I attended an orientation session for volunteers who were going to participate in one of the searches, and a woman sitting sort of towards the back stood up and said, "Why has nobody returned my call? I have been trying to give you my tip. I saw her."
Norma Parson told Stewart she was delivering newspapers around the University of Virginia grounds early that Sunday morning. Around 3:45 a.m., roughly 6 hours after the Copley Road bridge sighting, she was making a delivery at the residences around the UVA campus.
When I got to the opening to the West Lawn, she was just standing there. And she was tall, blonde. Her hair was stuck inside of her jacket. So I just stood there while they walked slowly by me. I just noticed she had all black on. She had black jacket, black skirt, no tights, knee-high boots, and the 3 white young males walking with her. I felt like it's 3:45 in the morning, and I was like, why is she out here with a mini skirt on, out here, her legs out, and she's with these 3 guys? So when she walked up the steps on my side of the pavilion, I looked her dead in the face.
The next morning, Parsons says she saw Morgan Harrington's photo on the front page of the local newspaper.
I looked at the picture and light bulbs just went on in my head. I said, yeah, I saw that young lady. I saw Morgan Harrington on the West Lawn.
Parson called the tip line with her story, but she says the police didn't take her seriously.
I think that they did a very unprofessional job in the way that they handled my tip.
The investigators say they vetted Parsons' tip very carefully.
The Lawn sighting has been investigated more than once by a couple of our investigators who've gone back at different times. We even used bloodhounds to go over there and try to see if whether or not the scent for Morgan was there. So we haven't discarded that information. We just have not. That could come to play later on as more information is unraveled. As it is right now, we cannot corroborate that sighting.
But reporter Courtney Stewart checks out the story anyway.
Well, I followed it up by going to the room where she said she had seen this girl and these 3 boys coming out. And the student who was there said it's not possible, and he suggested that in fact there was a wedding reception that was being held in one of the larger, those pavilions, larger houses next door, and he thought that probably what she had seen was guests who were attending this reception leaving that area.
Norma Parson stands by her story.
I'm good at faces, and I may not know your name, but if I haven't seen you in 5 years, I will remember your face. When I saw her in that paper, I knew that was her.
Norma Parsons' story has an eerie similarity to another eyewitness account unearthed by Stewart.
A woman who was arriving from Richmond to attend the Metallica show said as she arrived, and she was coming a little late, she said a group of 4 young men accompanied by 1 young blonde woman wearing black boots and sort of an outfit that matched the description of what Morgan had been wearing, were crossed in front of her car, and she thought that the girl looked wobbly, and she wondered why they would be walking away from the arena when Metallica was about to come on.
With no physical evidence or surveillance video to support either account, it's impossible for police to know whether they are accurate.
Eyewitness accounts in a criminal investigation are very important, but eyewitness information generally always has to be corroborated and confirmed in some way.
With lead after lead falling through, the investigation falters. Then, on November 11th, 2009, the police get a call that may steer them towards some solid physical evidence in the case.
I was notified by the Charlottesville City Police Department that they recovered a shirt that was consistent with the one Morgan was wearing the night she was last seen.
A black t-shirt with tan letters spelling the band's name, Pantera, across the chest, is found by a student on the ground next to an apartment complex. The location, the intersection of 15th Street and Grady Avenue in Charlottesville, is an area heavily populated with university students. If the t-shirt is in fact Morgan's, it will be the first piece of physical evidence in the hands of police since Morgan's purse and its contents were found in the parking lot the day after she vanished. Will the shirt's discovery be the lucky break the police need to crack this case? Next, a disturbing find on a secluded farm takes the case in a new direction. November 11th, 2009. Virginia State Police finally get a piece of physical evidence that may bring them closer to solving the Morgan Harrington case. What appears to be Morgan's t-shirt is recovered 2 miles from the John Paul Jones Arena at the University of Virginia. The 20-year-old Virginia Tech student was last seen on October 17th outside the Metallica concert at the arena.
It was a student that was walking along over in near an apartment complex off Grady Avenue, and the shirt was just exposed to the viewing. We didn't believe it had been there before. We'd searched there before. We don't know the circumstances of how it got placed there or how it was found there, but in fact, it was there.
At this point, the Pantera t-shirt is the only new piece of evidence the investigators have to work with.
The shirt was sent to our forensic laboratory in Richmond, and they were able to recover some human hairs from the shirt, and utilizing those hairs and hairs that were obtained from some of Morgan's belongings and from her mother, we're able to determine that through mitochondrial DNA testing that was in fact Morgan's shirt.
But this potentially promising lead turns out to be just another dead end. No other clues are found in the area.
We interviewed numerous individuals who lived in an area and who walked through that area or passed through that area. Other than the shirt itself, we did not recover any other evidence in that immediate vicinity of where the shirt was found.
December 2009. Morgan has been gone for 2 months, and there is still no breakthrough in the case. Jill and Dan spend an agonizing Christmas without their daughter.
You know, hope springs eternal. And that's part of what makes the missing time excruciating, because you say, oh, is she chained in a shed somewhere? It's raining. Is she in the cold? Is she being fed? You fill in the blanks in a terrible way.
With no new leads, developments in the case slow to a standstill until January 26, 2010, when everything changes. David Bass, a farmer in Albemarle County, is taking a tractor ride along his property line to check on the fences. Have investigators found Morgan's remains, or do they belong to someone else? January 26, 2010. Police investigating the disappearance of Virginia Tech student Morgan Harrington converge on Anchorage Farm in Albemarle County, Virginia, where skeletal human remains were found by the farm's owner, David Bass.
I was checking the fences and I thought I saw a dead deer, and I stopped, and it was a human skull, and that's when I called 911.
20-year-old Morgan Harrington has been missing since October 17, 2009. She was last seen hitchhiking on a bridge outside the John Paul Jones Arena at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville.
Certainly, identification of any body, positive ID, is directly relevant to the condition of the body. You know, you send it to the medical examiner in Virginia, and they can do their DNA testing, they can do their dental records, and you know, things like that. And that's what you use for a decomposed body.
Her parents waited home for the results. 2 days later, a dental record match confirms that the remains found on the Anchorage farm are in fact Morgan Harrington's. It's devastating news for Morgan's parents.
It's the worst thing that you don't want to hear, and yet at the same time, it's what I expected. And there was some relief in that it wasn't missing anymore. You know, the missing is the worst thing.
Morgan, the Harringtons' youngest child, is dead. This missing persons case is now officially a homicide investigation. Because the investigation is ongoing, the police will not release her cause of death.
I cannot discuss the circumstances of her death as far as the cause. I can say that the medical examiner has determined that her manner of death is homicide.
To the investigators, the location of Morgan's body on the vast 700-plus acre farm may be the most telling clue to date.
The location is very remote. It's not easily accessed by a vehicle. It's a location that an individual would most certainly have to have prior knowledge of in order, you know, to get there.
I mean, we're talking having to cross over creeks and ravines and fences, go through gates. They felt low risk. They felt, I can get in here without being seen. I know where I want to go. I know the terrain. I know what I have to cross, what obstacles I have to cross. I mean, all that's pretty telling.
Armed with these new assumptions, the investigators continue to work the case. But as time goes by, no significant new leads develop. Until July of 2010, when a cold hit from a criminal case database connects forensic evidence from the Harrington investigation to another case. A 2005 abduction and rape in Fairfax County, Virginia, a Washington, D.C. suburb 3 hours away. But unlike Morgan, the victim of the Fairfax attack survived and was able to take a close look at the assailant. September 24th, 2005. A young woman was walking home from a grocery store in Fairfax, Virginia at 10 p.m. when she was grabbed from behind and dragged to a nearby community pool. The perpetrator sexually assaulted the victim, but took off running when startled by a passerby. The victim fought back, and the police were able to obtain the assailant's DNA. The woman also provided a sketch artist with a description of her attacker. 5 years later, a DNA match links the same man to the disappearance and murder of Morgan Harrington, although the police will not disclose how the match was made. The investigation in both cases is still ongoing, and the police have not yet identified a suspect.
Forensically, there's a DNA connection that Morgan Harrington at some point during her time at Charlottesville prior to her death came into contact with a person who has already been in the unknown subject DNA database for Virginia.
Investigators believe the information will eventually help them solve the case, but they continue to urge the public to utilize the tip line.
There's still a monumental amount of work that has to be done in this investigation, and I feel confident that we will develop a suspect, and I feel confident that this case will solve someday. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Jill and Dan Harrington visited the site where Morgan's remains were found. That discovery has given them some peace, but they struggle to absorb the tragic loss of their daughter.
You have to move forward. I don't think you don't get over it. You don't have closure. You get beyond it.
My daughter's not going to graduate from college. You know, she's not going to get married. She's not going to have children. She's not going to have a career. But the person that murdered my daughter is walking the streets and is doing all of those things. And I think the public needs to be aware of that there is someone out there that continues to walk the streets that has murdered and raped. We don't want another person to have to go through what our family has gone through. No one should have to go through what it's like to have a child murdered.
The Harringtons have dedicated themselves to keeping Morgan's memory alive.
We are able to make a positive impact in Morgan's name. She has a scholarship at the Virginia Tech Carilion Medical School where she worked with her dad. We're building a school for her in Zambia, Africa. So Morgan's not going to be able to go to Africa and teach those kids and see those kids, but a lot of kids will be educated in her name, in her honor, in her building.
On February 5th, 2010, the family held a memorial for Morgan at the St. Andrew's Church in Roanoke. Despite a blinding snowstorm, over 500 people showed up to celebrate her life.
This was about 10 days after Morgan's body was found, but we just felt we needed, I guess, some closure. The weather was unbelievable. Yeah, horrible. I mean, we had 6 to 8 inches of snow and sleet. You know, I mean, who comes out? You know, but people came out. It was pretty amazing.
There's such joy in having recovered a body and reclaiming, you know, we have what is ours again. And to not let her be erased.
Charlie Allen Jr. disappeared on Thursday, October 11th, 2007. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Charlie Allen's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. 22-year-old college student and tennis buff Charlie Allen goes after life with gusto.
He would eat, sleep, and breathe tennis.
If he wanted to be good at something, he wanted to be the best.
One afternoon, in typical Charlie fashion, he makes plans with a buddy to go to a party.
Charlie was really excited about the chance to go talk to girls and just to have a good time.
But he never shows up. On a chilly October night in 2007, Charlie Allen Jr. disappears.
I was trying him on his phone, no response.
The mystery deepens when his Facebook account is abruptly deleted, and he warns his family that people may be after him.
He said there are people after him, and he's not safe.
Police are baffled by the bizarre case.
In my time here as a police officer, we've never encountered a story such as this.
And his loved ones find themselves ricocheting between hope and despair.
I just felt like, he'll call tomorrow. It would just be too unbearable to think otherwise.
It's a chilly evening in southeastern Massachusetts in October 2007. 22-year-old UMass Dartmouth student Charlie Allen is running barefoot and shirtless along a wooded road a few miles from campus. The tennis junkie, who was once one of the world's top-ranked online gamers, is sure that someone is after him and that neither he nor his family is safe. This dash into the night will resonate with Charlie's loved ones as the moment everything went wrong. Just a few days earlier, Charlie heads over to nearby Providence, Rhode Island to meet his younger sister Brittany. 15 months apart, the two siblings are very close and see each other often.
Charlie and I grew up together. We did everything together. We always had like that connection. We would always be there for each other, you know? We saw each other all the time.
They catch up over lunch with their mother Anne, who comes down to see her kids a couple of times a month from her home a little more than an hour-and-a-half drive north in Haverhill, Massachusetts.
That was a great day. I just remember leaving feeling happy. He was doing good in school, played tennis, and he seemed happy. And I remember driving home feeling really good.
Charlie is the oldest of 3 kids in a tight-knit family.
Very close. Charlie and I could talk about anything and everything. He told me more, sometimes things I didn't really want to know.
He was a great kid growing up. Enjoyed playing baseball and was very good at school. He enjoyed life and he did well. He was in the honor society. He could get good grades without even trying hard.
Charlie grows up hanging out with friends in the neighborhood and enjoying vacations at the family's summer house in Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Charlie had a lot of neighborhood friends, and our house was one of the gathering places.
He was just always like the light of the party. He was just very outgoing and just liked to have a good time.
He was a good guy. He seemed like, he had everything in order.
In high school, Charlie becomes interested in online gaming, competitions in which multiple players compete over the internet. He becomes especially good at the game Half-Life.
He was very determined. He would put a lot of time and effort into anything to make himself the best, and he was the best.
When Charlie first got into online gaming, he fell in love with it. He wanted to be #1.
Charlie's gamer name is Neo, and he soon becomes one of the top-ranked Half-Life players in the world, even traveling to Texas for a tournament.
He was considered the #1 player in the world. Standings, his stats, if you looked him up online, that would easily tell that.
He was very well regarded, one of the best in the world, and a lot of people knew him for that. They wrote articles about him and that kind of thing, so it was pretty impressive.
I remember in high school, and some stranger walked up to me and was like, "Are you Neo's sister?" It's like, yeah, I guess so. It's like, I love him.
After graduating high school, Charlie enrolls at UMass Dartmouth. He majors in psychology and gets good grades. He even thinks about going on to medical school after graduation. Having conquered the online gaming world, Charlie shifts his focus to tennis when he gets to college. He approaches it with the same determination to learn and be the best.
He ended up making the college team. He would dedicate himself to something, a passion, and he would spend pretty much all his time working at that particular thing and until he felt he was mastering it.
It was all I talked about. He would study it, the strategies of the game, and he would play all the time. He would eat, sleep, and breathe tennis.
He was always a happy-go-lucky guy, always had a positive attitude.
On the courts at UMass Dartmouth, Charlie meets fellow student Mason Vio.
I had gone down there to practice. I had seen him. He had asked me to hit, so we started hitting and we got it off from there.
The two quickly bond over their mutual love of tennis.
Charlie was a quick learner. He had developed his skills pretty quickly, and he had a good forehand. He liked coming to the net, and he was able to stay out there with anyone.
Charlie is fascinated when Mason tells him he trained at tennis academies in Florida, something Charlie aspires to do himself.
Charlie wanted to get a lot better. He had always said he wanted to go down south and just train to see how good he could get.
At 2 o'clock on Thursday, October 11th, 2007, Charlie and Mason meet on the courts to practice.
We had practiced for 2.5 hours, just playing a little bit and just doing some drills. Nothing really seemed out of the ordinary. We had a great practice.
Charlie tells Mason that he's been invited to a party later that evening by a member of the girls' tennis team. He asks Mason to join him.
He was really excited about the party, the chance to go talk to girls on the tennis team and just to have a good time. Charlie was really excited and was happy that we were both going to go.
The two friends grab dinner at the school cafeteria and then go their separate ways to shower and clean up. They agree to meet back on campus at 8:30 and go to the party together. Around 6 p.m., Mason heads to his house nearly a half hour away. Mason assumes Charlie is headed to his off-campus apartment in nearby New Bedford.
I had told Charlie that I would see him later tonight and the party should be good, and I will give you a call when I get back.
At 8 o'clock that night, at her apartment in Providence, Charlie's sister Brittany is checking her Facebook account.
We talk to each other on Facebook every day. He loved Facebook.
Charlie had messaged her earlier that evening, and she wanted to get back to him. But when she logs on, she is shocked at what she finds. Coming up, in a matter of moments, Charlie's world appears to unravel.
I could hear over the phone, his heart dropping. He got really scared.
Famous among his friends and family for his passion for tennis, 22-year-old Charlie Allen Jr. is finishing up his senior year of college. October 11th, 2007, his sister Brittany logs onto Facebook to respond to a message Charlie sent her earlier. She is thrown by what she discovers.
His account was deleted. He didn't exist on there anymore. And so I thought it was crazy that all of a sudden he would delete it and he wouldn't even tell me.
Brittany calls Charlie to find out what happened.
At first I was just like, hey, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm walking, just thinking about going to this girl's party. I was like, okay, well, called because I was wondering, why did you delete your Facebook? And I could just like hear over the phone him, like his heart dropping. It was like all of a sudden, he got really scared.
Brittany is confused when Charlie tells her he has no idea what happened to his Facebook page and that he didn't delete it.
And then he just started panicking. He's talking really fast, just in a panic.
What Charlie tells her next is stunning.
There are people after him, and he's not safe, and I'm not safe. It's like, you have to leave school right now. You have to go home, stay with Dad. Dad's the only one who can protect you. There are really important people after me. I've sent some emails, and I'm not safe. Right before he hung up, he said, all the answers are in the periodic table of elements.
Distraught and bewildered, Brittany calls her father.
I was really freaked out, and I called my dad crying, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but Charlie he just scared me.
Brittany had been very close to Charlie, but with the way that he was talking to her, she was very concerned about his well-being. And at the same time, my wife and I both had received cell phone messages from Charlie where he sounded like he was running and talking about maybe heading south. You know, it was definitely concerning.
In the message Charlie leaves for his father, he mentions Mexico and Florida. In the voicemail he leaves for his mother, he talks of Texas.
I had had a message from Charlie, which was really out of character of him. He had told me that he needs to be loved more and that he felt isolated. He was running at the time that he was talking to me. He was out of breath. Then he kind of hung up abruptly. And I tried calling him back, and he had turned off his cell phone.
Charlie's parents and sister all try to reach him on his cell phone, but every call goes to voicemail. That same evening, on the UMass Dartmouth campus, Mason heads to the campus parking lot where he and Charlie are meeting to go to the party together. But Charlie never shows.
I'd waited about a half an hour to 45 minutes before I had left. I figured Charlie probably went to the party and just forgot about me.
Mason tries one more time to reach Charlie. He gets voicemail and heads home. Meanwhile, Charlie's mother, father, and sister keep trying, but fail to reach him.
Charlie had taken off a couple of times, usually just to go see a tennis tournament. He'd always get in touch with us the same day or the next day, and so we figured he'd turn up the next day.
But Charlie doesn't turn up, and he doesn't call. His parents notify the university that Charlie has vanished. October 14th, 2007. 3 days after Charlie is last seen, police are called to investigate something suspicious a homeowner found in his backyard. Detective Robert Levinson of the Dartmouth Police Department is the patrolman on duty.
On Sunday, October 14th, at around 11 o'clock in the morning, I was dispatched to a residence in town for some found property. Specifically, it was a backpack, a school-type backpack.
Levinson looks through the backpack and finds a notebook.
The name in the notebook was Charles Allen. I contacted the university campus, and from there I found out that Charles Allen Jr. had been reported missing.
Bloodhound units are sent out to see what, if any, trace they can find of the college student. The canine search comes up empty, but over at UMass Dartmouth, campus police make a discovery. They find Charlie's Ford Expedition in a school parking lot. Inside the car is a pillow and blanket.
It appeared as if that maybe Charlie had been sleeping in his vehicle rather than in his home.
Up to this point, Charlie's family has assumed they would hear from him at any moment. But their concern turns to fear with the discovery of Charlie's car.
When they found his car, that's when I I couldn't deal with it. Because why would he leave his car?
Monday, October 15th, the day after the car and backpack are discovered. Officer Levinson is talking about the case with a fellow cop. When he describes Charlie, his colleague tells him that the college student sounds just like a suspect in another case.
There had actually been a housebreak not too far away from the campus.
In the early morning hours of Friday, October 12th, a little more than 6 hours after Brittany last spoke to her brother, Jean Boudreau wakes to find someone with no shirt on climbing through her second-floor bedroom window.
When she awoke, she had a brief conversation with this gentleman who had entered her window.
And he says, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am, I'm just leaving." He was looking for his friend Mason, and then he just proceeded to go out the window. He was actually very polite.
Levinson is sure it's Charlie. The physical description is a match, and he has already learned that Charlie has a friend named Mason.
Just based on the physical description and the clothing description of the person who entered this resident's home, that person was more than likely Charlie Allen.
This discovery only intensifies the mystery. Charlie's tennis buddy lives nowhere near the home that was broken into.
It was a good 30 minutes away, and he had known where I lived. So I thought that was a little strange.
It didn't make any sense to me.
Coming up, the search for Charlie becomes more urgent.
Time was of the essence to find him before he had hurt himself or something even worse.
College student Charlie Allen Jr. leaves a series of worrisome messages on his parents' cell phone. And after a disturbing conversation with his sister, he disappears. When investigators seemingly tie the 22-year-old to a break-in at a home several miles from Charlie's UMass campus, the case becomes even more puzzling.
Charlie was not a known criminal. This wasn't his normal behavior to break into someone's house.
But police learned something about Charlie that they think may explain this behavior.
The father told me that his son was bipolar and manic depressive, and he had acted irrational at times, and he might not have been taking his medication as he was supposed to. So it would all make sense that he was in some type of a manic state, and he was acting irrational.
Years earlier in high school, Charlie was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a condition that involves alternating periods of mania and depression.
He became a bit manic, and was a pretty big change for him. He had been somewhat shy in school up to that point, and suddenly he was very outgoing, and it was noticeable. When he was manic, he talked a lot and fast, and he had somewhat grandiose thoughts. When he was diagnosed in high school, he took medication for some period of time and started seeing a therapist and seemed to do better. He finished high school, graduated, and it went well when he went to college.
But in recent years, Charlie had an on-again, off-again relationship with his psychiatric medication.
When they diagnosed him with bipolar disorder and they put him on, like, mood stabilizers, he said he wasn't the same. He felt, like, dead inside. He didn't get happy or sad. I remember one time I was so upset about something, like hysterically crying to him about it, and he looked at me and he was like, I'm just jealous that you can feel like that, feel passionately about something, even if it's bad, because he didn't.
The summer before he disappeared, Charlie stopped taking the drugs altogether.
Eventually, he stopped taking the medication on his own. Things had leveled out. He tried to maintain his physical well-being in relationship to his mental well-being, and he seemed like he was somewhat under control doing it that way.
He was like, I wasn't alive before. I feel like I'm living for the first time.
Police suspect Charlie's disappearance is connected to his bipolar disorder, and that off his medication, he may have slipped into a manic state.
We believed that we were dealing with a mentally ill individual, and time was of the essence to find him before he had hurt himself or something even worse.
But the people who know Charlie best, his family and friends, find it impossible to believe that Charlie's condition is serious enough to make him want to disappear.
People don't understand, mental illness, where people call mental illness, and once they hear that label, it's like, oh, he probably just ran away, or he's probably schizophrenic, he has no idea, he's just crazy. I think he's more sane than anyone I've ever met.
Even when Charlie was manic, he always made sense. He never lost touch with reality.
Charlie's mother, who saw him just days before he disappeared, says there would usually be a build-up to a manic episode, and during her recent visit with her son, there was no evidence of that at all.
It starts off slow and it builds and it's built and it's built. That's the way it was with Charlie. You just don't lose your mind in 1 minute and run away.
There were no signs indicating that he was going to have a breakdown of any kind, so it all seemed a little strange to me.
In fact, Mason, who saw Charlie several times a week, had no idea his friend was bipolar.
That was news to me because he had always been really level-headed, happy-go-lucky. It hung out with him a lot. There was nothing to suggest that he was depressed or bipolar at all.
But in hindsight, Mason does remember something a little odd from the last day he saw Charlie.
At dinner time, Charlie and I went to the school cafeteria, and when we had sat down, he reached across to grab pizza from my plate. I thought that was a little strange. I'd mentioned it, and he said he thought that it was his slice of pizza. We both kind of laughed it off.
In another strange twist, police also learned that shortly before he disappeared, Charlie legally changed his name from Charles Allen Jr. to Neo Babson Maximus.
One day, I got home from work, and he's like, check this out. I changed my name. And he took out his license, and he showed it to me, and it said, Neo Babson Maximus. And I just laughed. I was like, you serious? What the hell is this? I just kind of like brushed it aside, like, well, I'm still calling you Charlie. I'm not calling you Neo in the public.
Neo, Charlie's online gaming name, is taken from the movie The Matrix, while Maximus comes from the film Gladiator. Babson is a family name.
I asked him why, and he wanted it to be different. And he wanted to be the best tennis player in the world. That was his goal. And he thought that it'd sound a lot better if he had a different name.
Charlie didn't talk widely of the name change. In fact, many are later surprised to find out about it.
Charlie had never mentioned anything about changing his name. I did not know Charlie had changed his name until after he had gone missing.
Police see the name change as further evidence of Charlie's troubled state of mind.
I don't know what makes a person decide to change their name. Not only do we have a person that's missing, we have an individual that legally changed his name, and perhaps, did he do that to escape his past, to start a new life? Maybe I don't know. I mean, I guess there's so many possible answers out there.
Charlie's family last heard from him on a Thursday. A week later, there is still no word.
I just felt like he'll call tomorrow. It would just be too unbearable to think otherwise.
His parents think back to the baffling voicemails he left each of them just before his disappearance, talking about heading south. His last conversation with his sister Brittany is equally confusing. Charlie told Brittany that people were after him and he wasn't safe, but none of his friends are aware of any danger he may have been facing or any enemies he may have had.
Charlie didn't have any enemies. I mean, he was just a happy guy and was everyone's friend. So for him to have enemies was a little far-fetched, it seemed.
The kid wasn't really a troublesome kid. I mean, he never picked fights. He wasn't like a mean person. I don't know why he said that.
Police don't find any evidence to indicate that anyone is after Charlie or that he had been in danger. But Charlie's mother and sister don't believe Charlie's fears are imaginary.
I didn't think that there was any chance in hell that he was just having an illusion that there were people after him. I could tell that he was being honest. He was really scared, and I believe it.
Coming up, could Charlie have hitched a ride out of town?
I feel confident that it was that student.
Charlie Allen Jr. is last seen in early October 2007. The college student suffers from bipolar disorder, and police seemingly link him to a home break-in. Law enforcement devotes every resource available to search around the UMass Dartmouth campus and in neighboring New Bedford.
I think the fact that Charlie did suffer from some type of mental illness made it all the more urgent to search the woods and to reach out to as many people who knew Charlie and that maybe had seen him within the last few days before he disappeared.
Police find Charlie's sneakers along a road not far from the house he allegedly broke into, which seems to confirm their suspicion that he was the shirtless intruder.
The search escalated from the use of Massachusetts State Police helicopter to a widespread search with multiple people searching for Charlie in the wooded area. It's a very dense wooded area in that part of Dartmouth.
Now, with no shirt, no shoes, and wearing just a pair of warm-up pants, how far could the college student have made it in the cool, rainy October weather?
If anybody could figure out a way to survive, it would be Charlie. He knew how to take care of himself, and so he was definitely the type of person that would find a way if he wanted to.
When Charlie's family reports that he had a very active online life, police check Charlie's computer for possible clues to his whereabouts.
There was nothing really all that helpful on his computer that would lead us in a different direction. The detective who checked the computer did not report anything out of the ordinary.
The only finding of interest is that one of the last pages Charlie looked at online was a website for the University of Texas. In the voicemail he left for his mother, he mentioned going to Texas. Had Charlie been researching a secret move south?
We contacted the university down there and just to inquire whether Charlie had in fact applied at that university, and we were told that no, there was no file with his name attached to it.
If Charlie had an interest in going to Texas, he would tell me, because he knows I would say, if you want to do that, hon, do it.
Charlie's mother is more concerned with what police didn't find on his computer. Charlie had told his sister he was in trouble because he had sent some emails to important people, but those emails are nowhere to be found. In fact, all of Charlie's recent emails are missing.
There were no emails before he went missing. There were no emails from October 11, 10th, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. But I just thought it was really strange.
Blows my mind that we could give Charlie's computer to the police to do the forensics, and someone who lived his entire life on the computer. They found nothing. He, lived a virtual life, and they found nothing.
If there is any truth to the notion that someone was after Charlie, could they have tampered with his computer and purposely wiped it clean? Or could it have been Charlie himself who did it? Could the online phenom have intended to take himself off the grid?
if he wanted to change his identity, I'm pretty sure he could have done it. I mean, he's pretty creative in, the terms of being able to, act, and be something, different. He did change his name, so I guess, in a sense, his identity was kind of altered already.
According to his friends and family, Charlie had a knack for mastering things quickly. Could he have been equally adept at setting up his own disappearance? Was changing his name a first step in creating a new identity? Charlie's family has a hard time.
He loved his apartment, he loved his classes, he loved playing tennis, and then all of a sudden it's all like gone.
Charlie has been missing for more than a week. With no news concerning his whereabouts, his family is getting increasingly desperate.
We couldn't sleep, trouble eating, crying all day. It was just unimaginable. It actually was just, difficult to function. Every second of every day, you'd be thinking about it. And it's just totally unimaginable.
Did Charlie flee in a manic state brought on by bipolar disorder? Did he decide to create a new identity someplace else? Or, as he told his sister, were people really after him?
There are numerous scenarios as to what could have happened to Charlie Allen. He was in our town. Someone had seen him. Someone had interacted with him. After that, it's anyone's guess what happened.
Finally, a few weeks after Charlie is last seen, a witness comes forward. Jim Costa is an electric company troubleshooter. On a Saturday morning in October 2007, he leaves early for work.
Driving down Cross Road, I did notice a young man, no shirt on, and he looked rather disheveled. He looked shaken. He didn't look that good. And I saw that young man walking towards a truck, maybe to ask for help, or maybe he was slept in that truck. I didn't know.
While the young man sounds like he could be Charlie, Costa is not able to remember exactly when he saw him, the Saturday just days after Charlie disappeared, or the Saturday a week later.
If it was the right day, I feel confident that it was that student.
The intersection is near the UMass Dartmouth campus. It is also along Route 6, a major thoroughfare that feeds right onto Interstate 195.
We haven't been able to confirm if that was in fact Charlie.
But if it was, what happened? Did he approach the truck driver for help or a ride?
It's possible he could have gotten on the truck and left the area. That opens up a whole new door for us, or for the family. It gives us hope that maybe Charlie is alive.
December 2007. Charlie has been missing for more than 2 months, and the trail is growing cold.
After a certain time frame in any investigation, after a couple of searches had been conducted, the phone stopped ringing. The leads just weren't coming in. We sort of hit a wall in the investigation.
It just became more excruciating. Anxiety increased tenfold every day with nothing being found.
While Charlie's shoes and backpack were quickly located, there is no sign of his cell phone or his wallet. His father keeps Charlie's bank and cell phone accounts active, just in case.
The bank card was never used after he had disappeared, and actually the cell phone itself, I still have the account active, just in case. Every time the phone rang here at home, it would be, your heart would jump. You think it's him or somebody calling about him. Every time, you hear a car pull up or somebody come to the door, you think it could be him.
For about 5 or 6 months, I called him every single day, multiple times. I'd leave him voicemails and stuff, to the point where you couldn't leave him voicemails anymore. The phone would just keep ringing, or it would just hang up on you.
Charlie's family prays for answers. But as the days wear on, they are left with only questions. Where is he? What happened to him, and why hasn't he called? It is impossible for them to believe that Charlie has intentionally cut them off. But it is even more horrifying to imagine that he may have done so against his will.
So, it's just like you're suspended. Sometimes I pray for answers, and then I think, oh wait, is that really what I want? What if, he's dead, but it's still eats away at you, you know? You can't find peace unless you figure it out.
Coming up, a group of private investigators and a fresh search offer new and disturbing leads in the case.
When we got the call, our hearts just dropped.
The disappearance of 22-year-old college student Charlie Allen Jr. devastates his family and confounds police.
It's very frustrating. Is it possible he's out there and doesn't really remember who he is? I don't know. I personally would like to believe that he's alive and he's out there somewhere.
Several months after Charlie's disappearance, his family is dismayed by the lack of movement in the investigation. They reach out to a private investigator, John Lasise.
Charlie Allen Sr. contacted me, and they were just devastated that they hadn't been able to locate him. Described him as very intelligent, loved his family, and they knew that he was off his medication. He was manic. He believed that he was being stalked. People were after him and his family.
Lasise takes on the case pro bono and forms a cold case team with several other PIs to help. They start by considering the area where Charlie was last seen and weighing whether or not he could still be somewhere in the vicinity.
Could he be in the woods? Absolutely. He may have committed suicide. He may have fallen into foul play. It's all a possibility.
The first order of business is to organize a new and comprehensive search of the 4-square-mile wooded area bordering UMass Dartmouth. The terrain is dense and difficult to navigate. Alive or dead, if Charlie is in the woods, Lasise is confident that they'll find him. Police have already explored the area, but Lasise and his partners plan a much larger and deeper search, employing ground searchers, ATVs, helicopters, canine units, and cadaver dogs. More than 300 people take part, and the massive effort kicks off on the year anniversary of Charlie's disappearance.
This search is the largest civilian-run search that we're aware of in New England.
Private investigator Alan Tate coordinates the search. As guides, he uses Charlie's last known location, as well as where his shoes and backpack were found.
To search this area here, although on the map it looks nice, wide, and open, on the ground it's very thick and very difficult for ground searchers to navigate through.
Charlie's friend Anthony is one of the many volunteer searchers.
I was kind of hoping we didn't find anything, because obviously who wants to, I mean, you want closure sometimes, but at the same time, I mean, I'm the type where I don't want to give up, so it's like I don't want like an ending that's not positive.
But on the third day of the search, a team including Charlie's own cousin comes across some bones.
When we got the call, our hearts just dropped. Obviously, after that period of time, you know, it's almost like you might expect it's going to happen, that they would find him. You know, so it was, your hearts drop, but you feel like this is finally it.
For like 24 hours, we didn't know if they were his bones. It's not a fun situation to be in.
When they found the bones, I couldn't even describe to you what that feels like. We just pretty much died.
But the bones turn out to be animal, not human remains.
It was difficult to do the search, but it was something that was necessary to do. We knew it needed to be done, and in my opinion, the outcome was good. You know, that he wasn't found.
I was just exhilarated. You didn't find anything.
I don't believe that Charlie is in the woods. I believe at this point that Charlie made it out.
But where did he go? While the search indicates that it is unlikely Charlie or his body is in the woods, it still offers no clues to what happened to the college student.
There's so many different ways you can look at it. I personally am trying to remain positive. I'd like to think that he's out there somewhere and he's still alive. I think that if Charlie had passed away, I think we would have come across him by now.
The only place to go with this investigation right now is to assume that he is alive and see if we can find him.
As the months pass, there is no word from Charlie and no sign of him anywhere. The investigation appears to have hit a dead end, but his friends remain hopeful.
I feel like wherever he wanted to go, he had a plan. And if the plan didn't work out, 100% the way he wanted it to, the way he thinks, he would have a backup plan. He would have ways of getting by if stuff didn't go the way he wanted it to go.
I think Charlie wandered off. I think he probably is somewhere down south playing tennis like he wanted to.
December 2009. More than 2 years since Charlie disappeared, there's a possible sighting of him much closer to home.
It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was sleeping.
Stephen Kelly and his wife are asleep in bed in their New Bedford, Massachusetts home, 11 miles from the UMass Dartmouth campus.
I heard the door knock. So, I ran to the door, and I opened the door, and there was a young man standing at the door. Wasn't dressed for the weather. He shouldn't have been outside at 4 o'clock in the morning. He said he needed help getting back to SMU.
SMU stands for Southeastern Massachusetts University, what UMass Dartmouth was called until 1991.
My wife was panicking. She thought that it was maybe going to be like home invasion if I went outside. So we shut the door and called the police.
But by the time police get there, the young man is nowhere to be found. The next day, Kelly's wife mentions the incident to a friend, who tells her about Charlie's disappearance. When Kelly hears about it, he looks up pictures of the UMass student online.
When I looked at the pictures, I'm like, that's the kid that was standing at our front door.
Could it have been Charlie Allen? Kelly tells police he thinks it was.
He said close to 100%, which is very high for someone to, make that type of a statement. But, I believe in his mind that, he really felt that he saw Charlie. It brings sort of a new element to this whole investigation. When I think about it sometimes, I think this is it's such an odd story that sometimes you almost wonder, if it's real or not.
It would be a wonderful movie of the week if Charlie shows up some morning on the doorstep of his parents and asks if he can come home. So that's my hope.
Charlie's information and fingerprints are entered into the National Crime Information Center database.
In the future, if Charlie is placed under arrest or protective custody, and if his fingerprints are checked, it will show that he's a missing person.
To date, there have been no hits.
In my time here as a police officer, we've never encountered a story such as this. So you just want answers. I know the family wants it. I know all the investigators. We just want to know. We want to know what happened to Charlie Allen Jr. All we ask for is some closure, I think. That's what the family deserves, at least. He's still out there, somewhere.
Charlie's family continues to hope that Charlie is safe and that they will one day hear from him.
Charlie would never just disappear. And he knows me well enough and his family to know that how much it would hurt. I have no idea where he is or if he's alive. It's like the ultimate internal struggle. Because you can't really grieve over something that you don't know.
I don't believe for 1 minute that Charlie left because he wanted to. He just wouldn't.
I have to hold out hope that Charlie's still out there. I have no other choice. I can't give in to the thought that I'll never see him again.
Braden Fuchsa disappeared on Monday, July 15th, 2009. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Braden Fuchsa's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. Braden Fuchsa vanishes in summer 2009.
It was just so out of character.
His parents panic when they discover a missing handgun.
My heart just sank.
And a puzzling trail of clues that he's left in his wake.
We didn't know if he hid north, south, east, or west.
Authorities discover that this young man has been guarding a dark secret.
Braden was pretty freaked out about having spent a night in jail.
And the search for him turns into a manhunt 700 miles away.
At this point, they would probably be looking for a body.
It's July 2009. 22-year-old Braden Fuchsa is enjoying summer on his own. He's just moved out of his parents' house into an apartment in the college town of Lawrence, Kansas.
Braden was really dead set that he wanted to be out on his own. He had the opportunity to move in with an individual that he went to school with. They had found him an apartment, and they were going to move in together.
It was a big deal for me for him to leave home, but he wanted to be independent, which we encourage. I mean, you have to let him go at some point.
Braden still sees his parents often, visiting them at home in Olathe, just 20 miles east of Lawrence.
He'd come over to eat and he'd come over to get leftovers. Todd likes to grill, and so that was Braden's big thing, was to grill, and he would come over and they would trade cooking secrets and recipes.
Braden also stops by regularly on his way to and from work. He's a security guard at a large outdoor retailer in Olathe, not far from his parents' house.
He said his dream job would be to work at Bass Pro, so he could be around the fishing rods and the guns and everything.
When he's not at work, Braden spends almost all his time doing outdoor activities.
Braden, from the get-go, enjoyed the outdoors. We boated, we skied and tubed and wakeboard. Every free moment that we had, we were fishing. He was an outdoors person, 100%.
He's been camping since he can remember, since he was a toddler.
What is that? Fish. Did you catch him?
He loved to fish, and he loved to hunt.
Braden has an especially strong affinity for mountains, which was apparent on a family trip to Colorado in 2007.
He had more fun that week. He was constantly, oh, let's stop and do this, and let's stop. You know, we were hiking, and I mean, he was just beside himself.
In mid-July 2009, Braden's parents are out of town for a couple days. When they get back home Wednesday the 15th, Starla contacts Braden.
I text him because he knew we had been out of town and told him that we were home, we had made it okay.
Starla exchanges several texts with her son. She tells him that she and Todd have plans to see a film that night.
I told him I hated to cut our time short, but I had to go because the movie was going to start, and I'd talk to him later.
Starla and Todd spend the evening relaxing at the movies. But when they get home, they notice something odd.
Todd had gotten on the computer and was looking, and he said, Braden transferred some money.
It's not a big deal. It's usually one of the type of situations where Braden or a daughter would call and say, I'm short on money, I don't get paid till Friday, can you float me some money? And it happened all the time.
But this time, the amount that Braden has transferred is much higher than usual.
It was $800. Usually we're talking $300-400. Just enough to pay his portion of the rent or insurance being due or something like that. I made a phone call to him and got his voicemail, left him a message just asking him what's up, were you in trouble, and you got enough money.
Starla and Todd go to bed feeling curious, but not overly worried about the transfer. They figure their son will give them an explanation in the morning. But the next day, Braden doesn't call.
Thursday came around, still hadn't heard from him, and it wasn't like Braden. Starla and him were very close. They text back and forth daily.
Then, another day passes without word from Braden. His parents spend the rest of the week searching for him, making a routine of calling regularly and driving by his apartment and work to look for him.
We didn't know what was going on. We just bound and determined we were going to keep up the ritual of, going to his hangouts and try to find him.
Although Braden's parents are very worried, they don't call the police, wanting to respect their son's newfound independence. But they do reach out to his friends, including his ex-girlfriend, Elena Ryan. The young couple dated for almost 4 years, breaking up only a year and a half earlier.
I spoke with Starla and told her that I had seen Braden at a gas station in town. But it was a very brief interaction, just kind of a hi, how you doing sort of thing. He didn't seem overly eager to talk to me. And because he had been trying to pursue a reconciliation prior to that, that seems a little strange.
Elena's encounter with Braden is only hours before Starla's last text with her son on Wednesday, July 15th. His parents' concern grows.
I mean, you can imagine the worry. We were both a wreck.
It's been 4 full days since Starla and Todd have heard from their son. They're at a loss as to what to do next when they have a sudden suspicion.
For some reason, on Sunday morning, we got up and it was just one of those feelings.
In our master bedroom closet, there's a shelf in there.
We kept a 9mm in the closet for protection. Our granddaughter had been there 2 weeks before, and I had put it up high in the closet so that she could not get it. So I had just seen it the week before when I'd went and checked on it.
So I seen the gun case there up on the shelf, and I don't know why I did it, but I just grabbed a hold of the gun case itself. It was empty. And my heart just sank.
Only family members know where the gun is kept. Todd and Starla are sure that Braden has taken it.
The gun was gone. And we become very nervous, and Todd said, we're gonna file a police report now.
The search for Braden takes on a new urgency. Where did he go? And why does he need a gun?
It's the worst feeling in the world. Our stomachs just dropped.
Coming up, Braden's parents are prevented from filing a missing persons report for their son.
Our emotions were extremely high at that point. We didn't know what else to do.
Todd and Starla Fuchsa have not seen or heard from their 22-year-old son Braden in 4 days, despite repeatedly trying to contact him. But the alarms really go off when a handgun goes missing from their home.
The minute we discovered the gun was missing, we went straight to the police.
But at the Olathe Police Department, the Fuchsas are not permitted to file a missing persons report for Braden because he is over 21 and no longer living at home.
Our problem was he was an adult. He's still our child, but they don't see it that way.
They actually told us since he was living in Lawrence with a roommate, the roommate would need to be the one that submitted the report.
And it was kind of frustrating because our emotions were extremely high at that point. We didn't know what else to do.
Just in conversation, I mentioned that, well, he's got my pistol. That changed the whole subject. They automatically took our report and filed it.
Braden's parents give police a detailed description of their son, his vehicle, and the handgun. Detective Kenton Thompson is put on the case.
I reviewed the report that we had this missing 22-year-old man, and that he basically had just disappeared. We've got the handgun gone from his parents' house, so obviously now we've got this concern of what's that about.
As Detective Thompson begins his investigation, Braden's parents go home and wait. But they can't stop thinking about the gun.
You don't know if he was gonna hurt himself, if something went wrong and he was protecting himself, if something had happened to him and somebody was after him. You just don't know.
Braden's parents are confident that their son is an experienced gun user.
He's been using a gun since he was big enough to walk. He was hunting by the time he was 5.
But they also know that the gun that Braden took from their house is not meant for hunting.
A lot of police carry 9mm. It's more for target shooting, and it's more of a protection gun than anything.
Braden's former girlfriend Elena is mystified as well.
Braden had his own guns. He had his own handgun. I know he had one in Lawrence. Why would he take his dad's handgun instead of his own?
Looking for information, Braden's parents try calling the last people to have contact with their son.
Braden's cell phone was part of our account, so I had access to his records.
And we took like the last 20 numbers and he texts them.
You know, this is Braden's dad. Haven't seen Braden in a little while. Can you please call me?
At first, no one responds. But slowly, calls start coming in, including one from Braden's roommate.
He called, and him and I visited a little bit, and he did not know where Braden had gone.
But his roommate does know something else.
We found out that on Wednesday, Braden grabbed his bag and told his roommate that he was coming over to Olathe to spend the night with Todd and I, with his parents.
But Braden's parents were home on Wednesday night, and Braden never showed up.
To say that he was coming to our house was nothing big, and the roommate wouldn't have checked it out. We wouldn't have thought anything about it.
Given Braden's lie, his parents tried to pin down their son's actual movements.
We knew he had been at our house at some time because the gun was missing. We have the neighbors across the street, and we went over and asked them if they had seen Braden, and they said yes, they had seen him at the house that morning and said he was there about 15 minutes or so. He had pulled in, waved to him, you know, hollered hi, went into the house, and come back out and waved to him again and got in his car and left. So that was about 10:30, 10:40.
It was later that same day that Starla last texted with Braden. His cell phone bill indicates that Braden didn't call or text anyone else after that point.
I had talked to him at 2:30, so that kind of gave us a timeline of what he was doing.
As Braden's parents try to put all the pieces together, another clue surfaces. Todd receives a call from Megan Loach, who, unknown to his parents, is Braden's new girlfriend.
I met Braden at a party in Lawrence at the end of May 2009. Braden is really funny. He's the center of anything. Everybody who was at the party was there for Braden. Everybody knew Braden, and he made me laugh. I instantly liked Braden, and I think he instantly liked me.
Megan and Braden have only been dating for 2 months. But she feels close enough to him that she is disturbed by his behavior the last time they meet, the night before he disappears.
He spent the night at my house. We made dinner and we were hanging out. Braden was just really upset and just not his normal self. Braden's really outgoing and he's always making people laugh, and it was weird to see him just worried. He just looked worried.
The next morning, Wednesday, the day he disappears, Braden leaves abruptly.
I think it was about mid-morning. Braden got up and left, and he usually doesn't leave without saying goodbye or something, or he usually hangs around. And then I had heard a car start in the parking lot. So I looked out my window and he was pulling out. So I texted him and said no goodbye or not saying goodbye anymore or something. Braden just texted me back and said goodbye, Megan. That was it. That was the last time I had talked to him.
4 days later, no one, including his parents, has heard from Braden. And the next phone call sends the Fuchsas even deeper down the rabbit hole.
Later that afternoon, we got a phone call from the police department. They had located his vehicle in Douglas, Wyoming area.
Coming up, Braden has been hiding a dark secret from his family.
We would never have suspected that something like this was going on, ever. It was almost like a Twilight Zone moment.
On July 15th, 2009, Braden Fuchsa leaves his home in Lawrence, Kansas. His whereabouts are completely unknown by his friends and family. Then, 4 days later, police report that his vehicle has been found in Wyoming.
What is in Wyoming? He knew no one in Wyoming, and why is he going that direction? what was causing him to go there. We were just a little dumbfounded, to be honest. There was a lot going through our minds.
Wyoming Highway Patrol found the vehicle as an abandoned vehicle. They did a check on it at 10:44 a.m. on Thursday, July 16th. There's no one around it. Now, at that point, Braden had not been reported missing, so they left because they had no other information available to them.
3 days later, on Sunday, July 19th, Braden's parents filed a missing persons report. It's only then that Braden's information is entered into the National Crime Information Center database and made available to authorities across the country.
We got what's called a delayed entry hit off of that tag, which told us that back on the 16th, that tag was run by the Wyoming Highway Patrol.
Braden's parents tell the police that as far as they are aware, their son doesn't know anyone in Wyoming, nor has he ever been there. The development in the case makes them very uneasy.
I mean, there's just so many missing pieces to this whole thing. The more information that kept coming up, the more confused we got, and it was just so out of character.
Looking for answers, Detective Thompson contacts many of the same people that Braden's parents have spoken to. He agrees that something seems very wrong.
I work a lot of juvenile cases, and typically the first people I talk to is their girlfriend or their boyfriend and their best friend. Those two people. If anyone's going to have information, usually have some idea of what has happened. And in this case, his roommate was his best friend, and he has no information. And Megan was completely surprised by it also.
Braden's former longtime girlfriend, Elena, isn't surprised that he didn't confide in anyone.
From my perspective, Braden didn't have a lot of close friends. He was a sweet, sweet guy, but he was very quiet. I don't know if I would call him shy, but he was just very quiet and didn't put himself out there.
But Braden's new girlfriend has a differing account of his character.
Braden was a very outgoing person. I'm kind of shy, so Braden definitely had to be more outgoing to get me kind of out of my shell. It's weird hearing about someone that you were so close to in a situation that you never expected. It started to become more like I never really knew Braden.
As Detective Thompson struggles to get some insight into Braden's actions, a possible motive emerges. Braden is facing potential prison time on a theft charge.
The theft charge resulted from Braden stealing some cash from his employer. It was a felony level theft, which means in Kansas it was over $1,000.
Braden's parents were not told of their son's arrest when they filed the missing persons report. When police call to notify them, they are stunned.
We were very shocked. He'd never been in trouble ever. I don't know if he'd ever even had a speeding ticket. He was not that kind of kid.
Braden is a straight go-forward kid. And when he was in trouble, his mom usually knew about it. He would confess. So, just anything to happen like that was just, it didn't happen with Braden.
But as Braden's parents think back to their son's behavior, the recent transfer from their account, as well as some earlier events, they begin to recognize signs of his growing money problems.
Towards the midsummer time frame, Bass Pro had cut his department to a limited amount of hours, and it left him with 8 hours for the entire week.
Still, Braden manages to keep his true financial state under wraps.
Braden reinforced us that he had enough side jobs that he was getting by.
But in reality, Braden's financial troubles are quickly catching up with him.
His roommate told me in June, Braden was late getting his share of the rent to him. He didn't think a whole lot about that at the time. But then in July, he was late again, and like a week late.
As Braden's parents later learn, Their son is so desperate for money that a week before he disappears, he dips into the till at work and gets caught.
Braden worked in security at Bass Pro. So his job was transferring money back and forth at closing time, putting stuff in the safe. The way we understand is they were closing up. Braden had taken money from the registers to the lockup spot. They confronted Braden when he come into work the next day. Braden said, yeah, it's back at my apartment. They brought in the police, talked to him a while. He confessed everything, and that police actually took him back to Lawrence to pick up the money. It's my understanding that he returned nearly all of the money. I don't think quite all of it, but nearly all of the money.
Despite his cooperation with the law, Braden is immediately taken into custody.
After that initial report was made and he was arrested, he was taken directly to the Johnson County Adult Detention Center.
Braden spends the night in jail. He is released the next day, but according to Braden's roommate, the harrowing experience of being locked up stays with him.
Braden was, quote, pretty freaked out about having spent a night in jail. Being arrested, you know, for him was a pretty major life event and was distressing for him.
Braden was scared. I think when he got arrested, they had exaggerated how much trouble he was in, and I think that Braden he's never been in trouble before, and he was just really frightened by that, and he thought he was going to go to jail for, you know, a couple of years.
Braden is due in court for a preliminary hearing on July 16th, but as the date approaches, Braden appears to set a plan in motion.
When he left his apartment on the 15th, he told his roommate, I'm going to go spend the night with my parents in Olathe, okay? That was Wednesday night. He had court the next day. Well, that is actually when he left.
When his case is called the next morning, Braden's car is already 2 states away, in Wyoming. Braden is nowhere to be found. All signs point to his being a fugitive from the law, but no one saw it coming.
We would never have suspected that something like this was going on, ever, because we've always had such an open relationship with our kids. It was almost like a Twilight Zone moment. It's like, what is this? I don't understand.
From his conversations with friends and family, Detective Thompson paints a portrait of what he believes to be Braden's last days in Kansas. A young man, ashamed of his crime and extremely afraid of getting a harsh sentence, panics and flees.
I believe his perception of it was that it was going to be much more serious for him than it probably would have been. This was the lowest level that would qualify as a felony theft. He didn't have any criminal history, so this would not have been a potentially serious sentence. It wasn't going to involve a prison term or anything like that. If he truly understood the likely outcome, perhaps he would not have been so distraught about the arrest.
Myself, my wife, the detective have all called and left voicemails on his phone saying that come back, hit your court date. This is not as bad as you think.
That's Mom. It's her going into the house.
She walks in. That was it.
A mom is missing. This beautiful blonde, very young and vivacious woman.
Everybody was starting to reach out, and like nobody had heard from her.
I tried messaging her, I've tried to call her on Messenger.
Police had to look at those facts and say she could just be off the grid right now.
We don't have a crime scene. We don't have an obvious crime.
There's no body, there's no murder weapon.
Right here, right here.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like he's dragging something. what the hell did we just watch?
Billings, Montana, 2018. The fiercely independent city on the edge of the Rocky Mountains is in the middle of an economic boom. It's here that 49-year-old Laura Johnson has come to experience her own independence after years of raising her children.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably the best picture of my mom. All I know is my mom got some 80s hair going on, and my dad actually has a full set of hair. Seeing all of us as an actual family, holy smokes.
Laura grew up in Vancouver, Washington, and met her future husband, Howard, there when she was 18.
By the time my mom was 23, she had 5 boys. She loved the fact that she was a mother. She always told us, I would never regret having all of you kids. She was extremely loving, and she was amazingly funny as well, and she gets that from her dad, who's just a jokester at every turn.
She was a wonderful mom, always helped with everything, always treated everybody like their family.
My dad worked the regular 9 to 5. Mom stayed at home, raised the kids. She was very nurturing.
She did everything. Every night she'd cook dinner. And for the amount of people that we had, I felt like it was a lot, but she made it look always easy, so.
She always made it a deal to have a good meal. Big old feast. My entire career has been in food service, and that's mostly due to the fact that I grew up cooking in the kitchen with my mom.
But in 2012, their children grown and out of the house, Laura and her husband Howard separate, and Laura moves to the Las Vegas, Nevada area.
I definitely think she wanted to find her own sense of happiness. You know, a woman in her 40s, having that for the first time, that's gotta be empowering, you know what I mean? So, she did tell me that she had joined a dating app.
And it isn't long before Laura meets someone she really likes. His name is Greg Green.
Greg was one of the people who she was matched with. He worked in Vegas right there. They went out on a couple of dates, and then it went to the point where she was living with him in Nevada.
Although she now lives 1,000 miles away from her family in Vancouver, Washington, Laura keeps in regular touch with her sons.
My mom was never really good about keeping a cell phone, so our main points of communication were Facebook.
She was consistently on Facebook. Like, you can click on Messenger and her little thing would be green.
In July of 2018, Greg Green gets a job in Billings, Montana. Laura follows him there in August, and soon after, she lands a job at a Papa John's restaurant. After her first day at work, Laura calls her son, Steven.
I remember the last time that I talked to her on the phone was when she was driving home. It was literally just, you know, talk to each other, see how life's going, have some laughs. But it's not until you look back, you wish you did more with your time, you know?
On September 18th, 2018, Laura's sons become concerned that she's stopped communicating with them.
My older brother, Howard Jr., he spoke to my mom every day. He called me and said, hey, have you guys heard from Mom? And I haven't heard from her. I looked on Facebook. It said that she hadn't been active for a couple days. So then I called Steven. I was like, hey, have you talked to Mom?
Jonathan called me on the 18th. The fact that Jonathan had even called me in the first place was a huge red flag. Because if there was a way to get a hold of her, he totally could have, you know what I mean? But now he's at the point to where he's like, I need help. I called my mom, and every time the phone was straight to voicemail. I've tried to message her, I've tried to call her on Messenger, I've tried to call her job, and the job is just like, yeah, she hasn't shown up for work since September 13th. Like all of this, and I'm coming up with nothing.
Nobody had heard from her.
I called Greg, he picked up. He says, came home from work on the 13th, and she was gone, all of her stuff's gone, all of it. I don't know anything. He doesn't know where she is.
September 24th, 2018. Laura's sons had been trying to reach her for 6 days.
So then I started calling the police department out there.
We asked the Billings, Montana Police Department to do welfare checks.
Officers went to Miss Johnson's residence to attempt to make contact and speak with her. The gate was locked. There was 2 large dogs in the yard. They weren't friendly. The house was quiet, and they weren't able to make any contact. Officers went to Miss Johnson's work and was advised that her last day of work was on the 13th, and she had not been to work since then.
Detectives tracked down her boyfriend, Greg.
When officers spoke with Gregory, he told them that on the 13th he had gone to work. And when he returned that day, he found that she was gone and she had packed her 2 red suitcases that she had brought with her and had left. The majority of people that contact police departments looking for their loved ones or wanting welfare checks done, those people are found eventually. You know, maybe they did go on a vacation and they didn't tell somebody. I think a lot of people, with the fast-paced life that we have, people want to take a break, they want to disconnect from life, and that can be something you have to take into consideration when looking for people.
What the law enforcement officers told me was, you're telling us that she's missing. We're not saying wrong, but we don't have enough information to say that you're right. The fact that it was a grown woman, people believe that if they aren't being found, it's because they don't want to be found. And anybody who knows my mom in this situation know that that's fundamentally not true. So the sense of like, something's happened became very real.
It's been 13 days since anyone has had any contact with Laura, and her family is getting anxious.
I posted a picture of my mom, and he said, we have not heard from my mom. And just to explain the situation, a lot of people commented on there.
The post was getting a ton of shares. I thought that the whole thing was just strange. The fact that, you know, her sons haven't heard from her, we don't know where she is, she hasn't showed up to her job yet, she's not responding to text messages. The first thing that I do when I see something like that is I do reach out to law enforcement.
September 27th of 2018, I did receive a call from one of the local reporters regarding a Facebook post involving Laura Johnson. So the next thing I did after I got off the phone was started to research the case. While we haven't reached the level that there was a crime committed, things were starting to fall in place that not everything was right.
Investigators find baffling clues in Laura's disappearance.
There was a recent phone ping from Washington that showed that the phone had been there on September 26th.
And learn of a troubling past.
She had a prior addiction, and she could just be off the grid right now.
I'm not just gonna sit here. So the next logical step was to go to Montana.
September 27th, 2018. Laura Johnson's family has not heard from her in 2 weeks. Her boyfriend, Greg Green, tells police he hasn't seen her since September 13th, which was also the last day she was at work.
At this point, it's still unknown where she's at, unknown if there's foul play involved. We just had not gotten any information conclusive one way or the other.
Police ask Laura's son, Stephen, if there is anything going on in her life they should know about. Stephen tells them that years before, she was injured and that she became addicted to prescription painkillers. But at the time of her disappearance, she was getting treatment and doing well.
There was a feeling that potentially she may have relapsed due to her addiction.
Police had to look at those facts and say, well, she does have a history of use. She had a prior addiction, and she could just be off the grid right now.
Detectives reach out to the clinic where Laura has been going for treatment.
The clinic advised me that she had been there every single day for 3 weeks prior to the 13th.
If Laura has relapsed, detectives know she could be in hiding somewhere. They go back to Greg Green, hoping he can help focus the search. But he doesn't have anything to add to his previous statement that Laura had moved out on September 13th, and he hasn't seen her since.
He was quite cooperative. He consented to a search of his home. Officers didn't locate any items that they thought were suspicious at that time. And Gregory had allowed them to look through his phone, which he showed them some messages that he had sent to Laura after she had left.
We don't have an obvious crime. We just know that she's been missing.
Investigators subpoena Laura's phone records, and when the data comes in, there's a glimmer of hope that Laura is alive and well.
There was a recent phone ping from Washington that showed that the phone had been there on September 26th.
Detectives wonder if Laura went back to her hometown of Vancouver, Washington, where her sons and ex-husband live.
From an investigative standpoint, it made sense because that's where some of her support network would be.
Sergeant Billings called and said, "I got some great news for you." I was like, oh, she did show up in town. I got excited.
Laura's sons immediately start searching all over Vancouver for her.
Me and my wife drove around for 2 hours to every business that was open, showing pictures of my mom, asking if anybody had seen her. So I was like, if she's in town, she's obviously would be at one of the hotels for sure. None of the hotels are like, nope, haven't seen her, haven't seen her. Nobody's seen her. Not a single person.
Laura's sons are disappointed that there is no sign of her. Then they get disturbing news. The investigators made a mistake when tracking Laura's phone.
When they pinged my mom's phone, they pinged the last incoming call, and it was my dad. And it was on his birthday, because he spoke to my mom every year on his birthday. He knew everything that was going on, and he's like, well, it's my birthday, so hopefully she answers.
Laura never answered that call, and detectives realized that she was never in Vancouver. It's been 18 days since Laura Johnson disappeared, and her son Stephen decides he has to take action.
And being all the way in Washington and realizing that I wasn't gonna get an answer, that was the next logical step, was to go to Montana. I was like, I'm not just gonna sit here.
I couldn't let him go alone.
They said to themselves, we're gonna just get in the car and we're gonna drive 14 hours over to Billings and we're just gonna go look for her ourselves.
So the first place that we went was the police station. And what they tell us is, as long as I didn't break the law, I could do anything. I had inclinations about who the person Greg was, and none of that ever sat right with me.
Stephen calls Greg, looking for more details about the last time he saw his mother.
He picked up, it was him. you know, who are you? What is this? Hangs up the phone. So I went to his house. I was yelling my mom's name. I'm yelling Laura. I'm yelling Mom. I think that she's in there. And then that's when he lets the dogs out. So I go up to the dogs, and they're loud, but they're not dangerous at all. So I just bent down and started petting the dog, you know. And that's when he came out of the trailer and lights a cigarette, and he's, you know, can I help you? And I tell him, I was like, I'm Steven Johnson. Like, Laura's my mother. I believe you know where she is, and I would like you to tell me. And he's like, no, I came home, and she was gone. He's very cocky, and he's just standing there smoking his cigarette. I told him, I believe you know where my mother is. I will be the one to put you behind bars, and I'll be the end of you. So he tells me to leave, and he calls the cops on me.
October 1st, 2018. Steven Johnson has driven from his home in Vancouver, Washington to Billings, Montana to try to find his missing mother, Laura. After a disturbing encounter with Laura's boyfriend, Greg Green, Steven's next step is to create flyers and post them all over Billings.
When we went anywhere, we handed these out. So we went to Greg's work, and we put them all over his window at work, and then he tore them all off.
We were like texting, we're like, all right, has anybody heard? Anybody heard? Like, we want to know, like, what's going on?
We woke up 8 o'clock every single morning with a place to go to, an idea in mind, with somebody to talk to just try to find something. So at the end of every day, I'm calling my brothers, telling them, here's what we did. Here's who we talked to.
It was very frustrating because this is like what you see on TV. I never thought in my life I would ever go through it.
One of the hardest things for me was dealing with the frustrations with the family, understanding their concerns, understanding their desire to have, you know, swift justice.
We can't just go to Mr. Green's residence and knock the door in and do a search without a warrant. We've got proper legal procedure. And at that time, we were lacking enough information to use the search warrant process in order to further develop Ms. Johnson's case.
It was frustrating not being able to get a real reaction. So it just felt like our duty to prove it.
We've talked to everybody who we can. We've been to the doctor's office, we've been to the Salvation Army. Everything comes up empty. We had gone through every single dead end. We had been through all of Greg's neighbors with no answer, with no solution. We were nowhere closer on day 5 than we were on day 1. And the last thing before we leave town that we figure we can do is go knock on the neighbors' houses again.
As they are knocking on the door of the neighbor across the street from Greg, Steven sees something he hadn't noticed before.
I basically stopped and I said, hey, I think we found something. There is a camera at the one place that we're interested in.
It points right at the driveway of where Greg and Laura lived.
Steven and Casey had talked to the owner a few days before. Now, they ring his doorbell again, hoping to get access to the footage.
And the first thing he says is, do you want to see? And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, I have my camera footage pulled up because you were asking me about your mom. He invites me in, and for the next like 35 minutes, I'm just on his floor looking at a bunch of video. So the first thing we pull up is September 13th, the last day she went to work. And then Casey's recording it on her phone. You could speed it up. So we're going through. So we're watching the camera footage. And then this is where it gets very interesting. It's him, right here.
Keep playing.
What happens is Greg gets home first. Greg gets home and parks his truck and goes inside. And 35 minutes later, right here. Oh! My mom gets home. Right there. So that's mom.
Blonde hair.
It is 7:07 on September 13th.
God looks excited
That's
to
her.
see her.
It's her going into the house. We were told time and time again that Greg's story is, I came home and she was gone. I came home and she was gone. She had taken all of her stuff and it was gone. So we got him. He was lying. But, well, where is she? So we're watching the footage. Day turns to night.
What time is it?
Right now,
11:27? 10:27?
10:27.
There he is. The headlamp?
Headlamp on. We see Greg throughout the entire night. Right here, right here.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like he's dragging something back. Just moving, going back and forth between the house.
That's when we call the detectives, like, you need to come see this.
Steven Johnson has discovered home security footage of his missing mother, Laura. It shows her at the house she shared with Greg Green after the time Greg told police she had left. Realizing the importance of the discovery, he calls the police.
Approximately 10:45 that night, I go to that neighbor's house and we watch the footage in question. We then start viewing the video in greater detail. And it was definitely very concerning.
The detective's trained eye spots something that Steven and Casey missed.
The footage shows the area of the driveway where Laura Johnson is observed coming home that evening, and she's exiting the vehicle and walking toward the trailer. Gregory, he's also seen going back into the garage and coming out with 2 red-colored suitcases in that vehicle as well.
The same 2 red suitcases that Greg told officers that Laura had taken with her when she moved out. And then, the detective sees something that changes the investigation from a missing persons case to something much more disturbing.
And you can see him walking out with that large, heavy object. That's zoomed in to show that area of the vehicle where he puts what we believe is Laura's body into the vehicle. And then ultimately, he's observed putting a shovel in the back of the pickup bed. before he leaves that evening, just after 7 p.m. We believe that more than likely that is her body, but we need a lot more evidence to prove that at this point. That was kind of a gut-wrenching feeling to know that you just observed somebody's last moments.
What the hell did we just watch? The only logical answer is, Greg ended my mother's life that night. And finally dawns on me, after all of this, that I'll probably never get to see my mom again. Is that I'll never get another goodbye. I'll never get that closure. I'll never get the last I love you. I'll never get any of it. It's just gone.
But unless police can prove that it is Laura's body on the video, they don't have a crime. On October 5th, 3 weeks since Laura was last seen, Billings police asked Greg to come into the station for questioning.
Gregory told us what he had initially told officers. He told us that on the 13th, when he got home that evening, she was gone and her 2 red suitcases were gone.
In that video, it shows Greg pulling those suitcases out of the house and packing them up in his truck.
He seemed very surprised when we told him that there was video, and then he decided that he didn't want to talk to us anymore. We informed him that he was not going to be allowed to go back to his home. We believed that that was a crime scene at this point. The vehicle he drove to the police department was impounded at that point.
We have now crossed into full-on criminal investigation. We do believe a crime has committed.
We had probable cause at that point to seek a search warrant for his residence. But we didn't have enough information to that point to make an arrest. We executed that search warrant that evening and began to process the trailer where Gregory and Laura lived. One of the first things that we noted was the strong odor of new carpet smell. In the back room of Gregory's home, it was obvious that the carpet had been replaced very recently, and that was suspicious to us.
But because police find no proof that Laura is dead, they have to release Greg.
At this point, we still don't have a body. We still haven't located Miss Johnson. There was not enough to arrest Mr. Green for the disappearance of Miss Johnson.
It's a crushing blow to the family.
After them basically telling him, hey, we know you're lying, they let him go.
The entire family was really upset because you have all this video, but you don't arrest him. Why?
There's a lot of frustration, but I would say it was mainly based around this guy did all of this and we could just see right through him.
We work closely with the county attorney's office and trying to determine, what more we need to get to that point to make an arrest. I had to remain focused on what needed to be done to build a case against him.
While the forensics team examines Greg's seized work truck, detectives have a strategy to keep an eye on Greg.
One of the last things we did when we searched the residence is we placed a tracker on his vehicle. We believe that he did more than likely take Laura's body to some location to bury her. We placed the tracker on with the hope of he might go back out to the location.
The tracker is placed on Greg's personal car, the same one that Laura is seen driving on surveillance video on September 13th. On October 5th, hours after his interview with detectives, Greg Green starts to move.
And at approximately 10 p.m. that evening, his vehicle started to move towards the interstate, heading west outside of Billings. So we began to follow him. He drove straight through the night, and we realized that he was leaving the state.
October 5th, 2018. Greg Green is the prime suspect in the presumed murder of Laura Johnson. Lacking evidence of a crime, detectives have to let Greg walk free. But they have placed a tracker on his car, and he appears to be leaving Billings, Montana, in a hurry.
His vehicle started to move towards the interstate and heading west outside of Billings.
Detectives track Greg as he drives for 16 hours across 5 states to his old hometown in Henderson, Nevada.
If you're being interviewed by police about the whereabouts of your ex-girlfriend and you just hightail it out of town, it's not a good look.
We were coordinating with law enforcement where he was at. They knew that we were tracking him. They would do drive-bys, make sure that we knew his whereabouts.
Meanwhile, Billings police continued the search for evidence to arrest Greg. Using his cell phone data, they track Greg's movements during the night of September 13th, which leads them to the local Walmart.
We were able to locate footage of him going to Walmart that evening. And when he went through the self-checkout, we did see a very distinct abrasion on his face, which we thought was very suspicious at that point.
Then, another crucial piece of evidence emerges from the forensic search of Greg's impounded work truck.
I noticed that the vehicle was very clean. It had been washed recently. So after 2 days processing that vehicle for biological material, taking swabs from various locations on the seat, we found 3 very, very small 1 to 2 millimeter stains that appeared to be blood.
That evidence came back from the crime lab, and sure enough, it was Laura's blood.
The totality of all of the evidence that we had located, including the blood on the door of that truck, and together with video footage showing him carrying out what we believed was Laura's body, at that point there was enough evidence to arrest him.
Hey, Greg. I remember you. You remember us? All right. So you know why we're here? I imagine so, yes. Okay. So, something you changed or something like this, or? Well, we have a warrant for your arrest for deliberate homicide, so that's what's changed. That's why you're here in handcuffs. Okay. And you'll be expected back to Billings. Huh. For deliberate homicide. Deliberate homicide. Deliberate homicide. Do you want to tell us what happened with her when she came home that night and what you did with her? That's your decision. I'm not going to press you. That's what I want to know. I did everything that I know already. Okay. Well, we both know that's not true. So if you don't want to talk to me, we'll end that there. Okay.
After being held for 7 months in a Nevada jail, Greg is extradited to Billings. More than a year later, in February 2020, his trial is set to begin. But without Laura Johnson's body, a conviction is far from a sure thing.
We had a theory of what we believed happened, but we just didn't have a body. This is the very first case that I've ever had that involves a no-body homicide arrest. When you're trying to convict somebody of deliberate homicide and you don't have a body to go along with that, it can be very stressful.
What is your evidence? Can you really make it stick?
Drug surveillance video and murder. Testimony begins in the trial of a Billings man accused of killing Laura Johnson.
We sat right behind him the entire time. I was not happy at all.
He was not taking anything seriously. I don't know if he was just in disbelief, like this is really happening, so he just kind of like went numb to it.
He maintained his innocence the entire time, even though there was video being played in the courtroom of him carrying what appeared to be Laura's body out of his house.
The evidence in this case will show you that the defendant took great lengths to cover up his murder of his girlfriend, Laura.
Prosecutors present jurors with a possible motive for the brutal murder. Laura was about to permanently end her rocky relationship with Greg.
One of the things we did learn from the trial was she had moved into a separate bedroom and she was saving money to try to leave.
He acted like he was at home sitting on his couch. And yeah, he didn't care whatsoever. He thought he was like at home watching Netflix or something.
He knew exactly where the cameras were from news media. There was a moment where he turned around, looked into the lens of our camera, and gave a little smile.
Greg's behavior at the trial only adds to the heartbreak felt by Laura's family.
That if this situation didn't happen, like I could have had my mom back. She would have been living in my town. She would have been. She would have been here. It's not fair.
How will this trial pan out without evidence of Laura Johnson's body?
This case has had so many unanswered questions. It's had so much heartache with it. And there's no body, there's no murder weapon, there's no evidence that shows he actually killed her.
Two years after Laura Johnson's final moments were captured by a home security camera, a jury in Billings, Montana is set to decide whether her boyfriend, Greg Green, is guilty of murder.
This trial lasted, 2 weeks? Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. Didn't leave that city hall building for 2 weeks, basically.
That footage was the critical piece in the investigation and in the trial. It was a piece of evidence that the jury actually got to take back with them to deliberations, to view.
You can't escape the silent witness. You can't escape that video surveillance.
Any person with common sense to see all the evidence, and especially the video, would know he was guilty. I just got home the day before, and Steven called and said, hey, they have a verdict already. We're headed back.
The jury was out maybe 2 hours.
You don't know. You put 12 people in a room to make a decision and hope it's the right one.
To the charge of deliberate homicide. Guilty.
Ultimately, he was convicted of deliberate homicide. And he received a sentence of 100 years in the Montana State Prison.
In my 16-year career, this is the first case I've been involved in that went from a welfare check to a missing persons to a homicide without a body to a even prosecution of a homicide without a body.
the fact that the contribution that we had was as impactful as it was, that's where the bittersweet part comes, you know? Had to extend ourselves that much.
Go through something you could never prepare yourself for.
Exactly.
If he didn't do that, then we would still be searching.
One of the key pivotal moments here was the persistence from family, and then Ms. Johnson's son coming to Billings and locating the surveillance footage. And I can only speculate, if that video had not been located or recovered, I'm not sure where we would be now.
Today, Stephen and his brothers are focused on keeping their mother's memory alive.
My mom was a part of my life every single day. I got married last year to my beautiful wife, Casey here. We had our daughter, Eliza, and Eliza's middle name is my mother's name. So her name is Eliza Laura Johnson. Big part of how my mom was as an everyday mother is the ways that I've been able to cope with her loss. So making the meals that she made, having the family dinners, you know, bringing her into my life in those little ways to keep her alive. That's what I do. She's there every time I make dinner, you know?
The only thing I have that I can hear her voice now is April 2018. She called me, but I was at work, and she left me a voicemail to tell me happy birthday. That's the only thing I have to like hear her voice.
We still have the fact that we don't know where my mother lies to this day. That we have not been able to bring her home. We haven't had the sense of closure for peace. There's been no funeral, there's been no memorial, there's been nothing. If there's anything that anybody can tell us, if there's anything that sticks out, if there's a piece of property you own, if there's something you can do, if there's something you've seen, it's just, you know, to please come forward.
I'm hoping this outcome that people come forward with actual real information and it helps us find her and bring her home.
First apartment in New York City.
The online dating scene was still pretty new and fairly unregulated.
I've been single for like 5 years. I lived in Long Island forever. All of a sudden I'm in Brooklyn, I moved, and everyone's like, oh, what are you doing? Do you want to hang out? I thought you'd want to hang out. You know, it's like, no, I can't hang out. I'm in Brooklyn. You know, I moved here to find a husband.
Numerous calls come into 911 stating that someone's been struck by a vehicle on the Bell Parkway. Those last seconds of his life were seconds that he didn't deserve.
I was just shocked. Just kind of go through this point of disbelief.
It was Michael Sandy. It could have been anyone. They weren't looking for a black man. They weren't looking for a white man. They were looking for a victim.
You can feel how he must have felt when he saw these guys coming down and then running for his life.
Imagine the sheer terror that he was probably feeling.
This guy was lured to his death.
We had a rogue device on this wireless network. So the idea was, all right, well, where are they?
Kind of just feel your whole body collapse in that moment. It takes your breath away.
July 2006. Brooklyn, New York. 28-year-old Michael Sandy is on top of the world. He's just landed a job as a designer for IKEA and is finally pursuing his dreams in the big city.
This is my new apartment. This is my his first apartment in New York City.
And his best friend Patrick is by his side.
Michael was really excited about his first Brooklyn apartment. I mean, he was all joy. He had a laugh that could, like, carry a room.
I think it's cool.
Well, it's a wrap. We finished the bed. Made much more space out of this tiny little room. It's wonderful. I'm glad my hair has changed.
It's rocking.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what did we look like there, right? We were just absolute best friends. Comfortable, really comfortable with each other. He was that friend that would, like, do anything for you. Loyal, sensitive, compassionate. And those people don't come around very often.
Life hasn't always been easy for Michael, growing up as a young gay black man in conservative Bellport, New York.
His struggle with being gay in Long Island was definitely a thing. Some parts of it was because he wasn't necessarily, like, out to his parents, but I think that they all had this beautiful kind of unspoken understanding.
I've known Michael Sandy since we were kids. And Michael spoke very closely with his friends about who he wanted to make connections with. And being in a small town, a conservative town, and a conservative family, these things were kind of hard to explore. He wanted to work in Brooklyn, live in Brooklyn, breathe Brooklyn. So I think what was very attractive to him was really that social element and to really find a connection, to find love. I feel like he had to make that move to survive and to express who he was and to be who he was meant to be.
Michael is now living his dream in hip Williamsburg, Brooklyn, an artsy neighborhood just a quick subway ride from Manhattan.
Michael is very agile and he made everything he did look very easy. Okay. Yeah, that was great. But he was a very natural dancer. So that was Michael dancing in a parking garage. Actually, I was filming this. We were 1 and 2 and 3 and punch and, you know, turn and spin. So we had it all choreographed. You know, it's tough to kind of think about the last time you see someone. But it was a good last in-person memory.
As much as he was so gregarious and outgoing, personally, he was very shy. He had never dated anyone. In 11 years of me knowing him, never had a boyfriend.
He was on the hunt to find love.
In the early fall of 2006, just a few months after moving to Brooklyn, Michael goes out with Patrick and a small group of friends. Another friend captures a lighthearted moment on video.
I've been single for like 5 years. I lived on Long Island forever. No one ever wanted to take me to dinner. No one to ever go out. All of a sudden, I'm in Brooklyn. I moved, and everyone's like, "Oh, what are you doing? Do you want to hang out? I thought you want to hang out." You know, it's like, no, I can't hang out. I'm in Brooklyn. What happened 5 years ago? Right? It's insane. You know, I moved here to find a husband. Let me stop.
The last time I hung out with Michael was very close to the time that he had died. So.
On the evening of October 8th, 2006, numerous calls come into 911 stating that someone's been struck by a vehicle on the Bell Parkway.
It's 10 p.m., and the scene is a dark section of the highway near Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, in an area known as Plum Beach.
That car never stopped. It was a hit and run. Very serious car accident. From injuries, he's unconscious.
The victim, a young black male, gravely injured but still clinging to life, is rushed to Brookdale Hospital.
We have a victim. We don't know who he is. We don't know necessarily how he got there. Now we have to figure out why this occurred.
Investigators question witnesses at the scene.
This incident occurs at night when it's dark and everyone's vision is limited. No one really has a good description of the vehicle and or the license plate.
Police search the area and soon make a crucial discovery.
They come across a vehicle that's parked in a parking lot across the highway. The car was still running.
Police recover a photo ID from the vehicle. It's an unmistakable match with the man gravely injured on the parkway.
And through the documentation that they find, they come to find out that this vehicle is owned by a young man by the name of Michael Sandy. So we have a victim. We know his address. And we wanted to know why he would have driven from Williamsburg to the other side of Brooklyn at night in the dark.
Plum Beach is just a dead stretch of sand, kind of a weeded beach where nobody really takes the sun. And it's just a quiet little stretch of beach.
So something's not adding up here. What's going on?
Later that night, some eyewitnesses reveal a disturbing detail.
So some of the accounts that the officers are getting are stating that this young black male is being chased by a number of white males from the parking lot along the Bell Parkway and then being struck by a vehicle as he's being chased. So based on witness accounts, these young men now start to pull him off the highway.
His body got dragged back to the side of the road. They rifled through his pockets before running off. Witnesses saw that.
Given the races that people are specifically noting, we're wondering, is this something racially motivated? You know, this may have been a targeted attack.
A new detail about Michael's final moments comes to light.
The computer logged into America Online, and a conversation was visible on the screen.
The more police learn, the more personal and tragic the case becomes.
It all is a thing to me that stems from his willingness and wanting connection.
He left pointers, he left the breadcrumbs. And like that, I'll see you in 20 minutes was his final moments as he walked out the door.
Eyewitnesses tell police they saw Michael Sandy being chased by several unidentified white men alongside a New York City highway before he was struck by a hit-and-run driver. Hours later, in the early morning, Michael lies in a coma at Brookdale Hospital in Brooklyn.
He's unconscious, so he can't speak to us to tell us how this all went down.
Meanwhile, word of the shocking incident is slowly spreading among Michael's loved ones.
I got a phone call, and I don't believe anyone knew the full details. I didn't really receive any information other than the fact that he was in the hospital on life support.
One of my good friends called and he said Michael was in a pretty severe accident. Like I just felt my whole body fall to the ground hearing that. Then you started seeing it on the news.
I was working as a reporter for the New York Post when this happened. We were told that he was still alive, he was in critical condition, and he was unable to communicate to police exactly what happened.
We're talking to the family, kind of getting a clearer picture as to who Michael is. Yeah, they find out that Michael is 28, soon to be 29-year-old male, and he was an interior designer, and was just a super nice guy. Probably had zero enemies. And we wanted to try to figure out why he may have suddenly find himself in a conflict with other people.
When I was at the hospital, his parents were just desperately trying to find any resource and help that they could.
It wasn't until I spoke with Mr. and Mrs. Sandy to really know the severity of the impact. They were holding up. They had wonderful support with their family, but it was hard to see them hurting the way that they were.
We were able to see him, and he looked rough. I mean, his head was completely swollen. And, you know, being on life support, there was very little kind of hope in the outcome. And I was just shocked. Yeah, you just kind of go through this point of disbelief.
All the machines beeping and blaring and all the hustle and bustle in the hospital to begin with, it was hard to fully absorb what was happening. But it was tough to see him in that position. Feels like a dream happening, very bad dream.
Detectives have little to explain the attack on Michael, other than the vague possibility it was racially motivated. So they head to Michael's apartment in Williamsburg, hoping his roommates can shed some light on his plans that evening.
So the investigators are now looking to interview his roommates. Want to find out if he has any problems. Did he have a beef with somebody? Was he looking to settle a score? You know, we need to figure out why he may have gone from Williamsburg to Chief's Head Bay, and to see maybe is there any conflict that was occurring that evening.
His roommates don't recall anything out of the ordinary that evening, but they mention that they saw Michael chatting on the internet earlier in the night. They chalk it up to some innocent online dating.
We are hearing from Michael Sandy's roommates that he is single. And like many people were doing when this whole online dating thing was starting to really take hold, he was going out and talking to people online and going out to meet them.
The internet really emerged when we were young adults. And this is one way where we could connect to people of our age and have that social interaction, even if it was a digital form of connection.
So back in 2006, the online dating scene was still pretty new and fairly unregulated. So you were talking to people online and not really knowing who was on the other end.
Now investigators begin to question if race had anything to do with the crime, or whether Michael's innocent search for love online may have led him down a dangerous path.
Every new thing has its benefits and its drawbacks. And we had seen, certainly by 2006, that the online environment was one that was being used pretty heavily by gay men in particular. And one of the drawbacks of the internet and online dating is that people will use them as avenues to target others.
So now we potentially want to look at Michael Sandy's computer to see if that is going to give us any investigative evidence to corroborate that.
Investigators find Michael's laptop in his bedroom.
Now we start to shift their attention to, did Michael Sandy maybe talk to somebody online and went to go meet them, and maybe that scenario went wrong?
To explore the possibility that a crime may have originated on the internet, investigators reach out to computer specialist Denise Dragos.
The New York City Police Department had one of the very first computer crime units in the country. It was called CIT back in those days, Computer Investigation and Technology Unit. Eventually, it became the Computer Crime Squad. The detective squad, they needed assistance to actually handle the laptop as evidence and preserve what was visible on the screen and whatever else may be on that computer. So I got my kit together, which we would bring out to digital crime scenes. Hard drives, USB drives, other tools potentially that may come in handy, and we responded. The computer was logged into America Online, and a conversation was visible on the screen.
York City police believe a computer chat may have lured Michael Sandy into an attack. As Michael lays gravely injured in the hospital, NYPD computer specialist Denise Dragos discovers that Michael's computer is still logged into a chat room on America Online.
The chat conversation happened the evening of the 8th. Before the incident, basically it's two users, Fisheye Fox, and a second account which went by the screen name Drum and Bass 007, which is Michael's account. They're having a conversation. They're talking about potentially smoking marijuana together. And, they say how old each of them are, what they look like.
So in the initial conversation that Michael Sandy's having with this fish-eyed fox, they agree to meet up. They talk about meeting up in Plum Beach, Brooklyn, which is where he is struck by a vehicle.
They make plans to meet there at 8 o'clock, but it's clear that things didn't go as planned.
So searching through Michael's AOL chat history, when they meet up, Fish-Eyed Fox is not alone. There are other people around, which makes Michael Sandy feel uneasy. So he gets spooked and he leaves.
By 8:45, Michael returns to the chat from his apartment in Williamsburg.
He goes back to his computer, and Fish-Eyed Fox is saying, hey, what happened to you, and why'd you leave? And Michael Sandy says, well, I thought we were meeting one-on-one, and there were other people around, so it just felt weird, so I left. And now Fish-Eyed Fox is trying to convince him, oh, yeah, I don't know who those guys were, or, we can just meet one-on-one, it'll just be the two of us. So come on back out, and we'll meet up again.
By 10 o'clock, Michael is found by the side of the parkway just yards from the Plum Beach parking lot.
It all is a thing to me that stems from his willingness and wanting connection. Like, so much went out of his brain for that possibility. And the real hard part is that he just didn't listen to his instinct that day. And he went back.
Looking back, I got the impression that he might have had an idea of what he was doing was potentially risky. I don't think it was an accident that he left his computer on with the chat window open. He left pointers, he left the breadcrumbs. And like that, I'll see you in 20 minutes was his final moments as he walked out the door.
Police now believe this online chat between Michael and Fish-Eye Fox is a key piece of evidence, and they're hoping it may lead them to a suspect.
We started doing live system analysis at the time, just to preserve the information that was there. So even without touching it, did little old school pictures, traditional pictures of it, just to make sure that even if it crashed, at least we had that. We were running special software on the machines, which copied out all of the system memory to an external drive. So that in that case, we were able to get a lot of information and preserve it forensically in real time.
For investigators, it's now imperative that they track down the man Michael was chatting with, who goes by the screen name Fish-Eye Fox. But due to privacy laws, that will require a court order.
You have to remember, back in 2006, the internet was a very different place. Some of these social media companies were not necessarily forthcoming with information about their clients.
We started doing the process to subpoena America Online to see who owns this Fish-Eye Fox account, if we could identify that person.
On October 9th, a day after Michael Sandy was struck on the Belt Parkway, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office issues a subpoena to America Online to disclose the name of the individual who goes by the chat handle Fish-Eye Fox.
So in the investigation, we come to find out that Fish-Eyed Fox is a screen name that is owned by someone by the name of John Fox. who has an IP address that comes back to Brooklyn. And thus, the investigators now go to that address in Brooklyn where the ping of this IP address is coming back to.
The address on Brigham Street is just a few blocks from Plum Beach in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, where Michael was struck.
It was a row houses on this block on Brigham Street. We pretty much set up a surveillance operation with numerous detectives in different cars. And as all the teams are sitting there, somebody shows up at that house and walks up to the front gate. All of the police cars, come screeching up, and the detectives jump out and approach the individual. We identified ourselves as being detectives, NYPD. And he says, "What's going on, guys?"
NYPD detectives have tracked the source of a computer chat room message they believe was used to lure Michael Sandy to a vicious attack. Based on the IP address linked to the message, they descend on a house in Brooklyn.
The gentleman lived at that address. He said, "I just got off work. Can I help you guys?" So we asked him his name.
The chat room message was from a user called Fisheye Fox, who police have identified as John Fox. But that is not the man's name. And there's no one named John Fox who lives at his address.
So that was a little bit of a pucker moment. Like, oh crap. We asked, "Do you have internet service?" He goes, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just got a new router." So we're like, "All right, can we come inside and talk to you about a situation?" He says, "Yeah, come on inside." As soon as we walk into the kitchen, right there on the kitchen table, we can see a brand new wireless router.
So new that no security has been set up on it yet. Detective Dragos realizes that means anyone could have tapped into this internet service. And a quick check reveals her theory to be correct.
It appeared that now we had a rogue device on this wireless network. The homeowner just had a new router and it wasn't secured and was logged into surreptitiously by this Fisheye Fox user.
Detective Dragos knows that if the rogue device is logged into this router, it must be close by, within range of the Wi-Fi signal.
All right, well, where are they? They have to be within a stone's throw. So let's try and figure out where they are right now. So I'm like, I can try to talk to them and stir the pot and see what happens. So I have an undercover account and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" It was just a shot in the dark to see, if I could figure out where the heck this computer was. I get a response from Fisheye Fox. So now I'm talking to Fisheye Fox myself. And so I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? How you been? When are we getting together?" And he's, "I'm back at school." So we're confounded right now.
Detective Dragos reaches out to her contact at America Online, who is able to determine that John Fox, aka Fisheye Fox, is now chatting from a different location entirely.
And we're like, "Well, what's this other location?" And they said it goes back to SUNY Maritime, which is State University of New York Maritime College, which was a college, in the Bronx.
A check with the campus security office reveals there is a sophomore enrolled at SUNY Maritime, named John Fox.
It was after midnight, I'm sure, at that point. And basically, we all responded in a caravan from that location. Everybody drove out to the Bronx to go and talk to John Fox.
The investigators coordinate with SUNY campus police to locate John Fox's dorm room.
It's 1 a.m. in the morning, and now you're going to talk to someone whose part in this whole thing is still unclear. We do know that John Fox is connected to the screen name that Michael Sandy was talking to. So everyone's antennas are up.
When the 19-year-old student comes to the door, he appears surprised, but his demeanor is calm.
So the investigators are now talking to John Fox at his dorm, and they're asking him, what was your weekend like? And he proceeds to tell them, well, I was just hanging out with some friends, and we were just drinking some beers, just chilling out for the weekend, just a few friends having a good time. During this interview, John Fox starts to get nervous, and his answers start to contradict themselves. This is going from an interview turning into an interrogation.
John Fox agrees to accompany the detectives to the 61st Precinct in Brooklyn.
John Fox is saying in his statement that he and Anthony Fortunato and Gary Timmons and the Russian kid, Alex, are hanging out by a local deli. They decide to go back to the house where John Fox logs into the computer. And he admits that Fish-Eyed Fox is his screen name, but that his friends must have been using his screen name to have a conversation, because he knew nothing about this conversation. But then he starts to turn around and say, well, we were just looking to have a little fun. What does that mean? What does it mean that we're looking to have a little fun? And he starts to basically incriminate himself. And he claims Anthony Fortunato is the one who sort of hatched this scheme to go into a gay chat room, talk with someone who's looking to meet up with another man, and then meet up with that person to rob them under the assumption that the gay man won't go to the police.
The reality that some folks actually feel a certain amount of shame, and so they would be less likely to report. They would be less likely to make a complaint.
It was a very powerful set of facts. There was something particularly chilling about how this man was lured out to his death, basically.
Could have been anyone. They weren't looking for a black man, they weren't looking for a white man, they were looking for a victim. And unfortunately, they chose Michael Sandy.
John Fox admits to NYPD detectives that he, Anthony Fortunato, and a group of their friends used the screen name Fish-Eye Fox in a chat room to set up a meeting with Michael Sandy under the guise of a date, with the intention of robbing him.
So they met on the street. John Fox and him had a brief conversation, and Fortunato and then a couple of their other friends actually were in the area. So Michael got spooked. His spidey sense was tingling. He left. All was good.
Detectives believe that while Michael returned home, John Fox and his friends didn't want to give up.
They start drinking beers again, and they say, oh, maybe we can find somebody else. In the interim, Michael reaches back out. I said, hey, I just want to hang out with you. I don't want to do a group thing, so let's just me and you hang out. So John was like, all right, cool, we'll do that. So he came back.
They all get to Plum Beach, and they approach a blue Mazda, which is Michael Sandy's car. Alex starts to assault Michael Sandy. Michael Sandy breaks away from the assault, and they start to chase him.
Where was he going to go? If they were going to prevent him from getting into his car, he's going onto the highway.
Imagine the sheer terror that he was probably feeling when he's chased onto a busy highway, running for his life and running into a speeding vehicle. Those last seconds of his life were seconds that he didn't deserve.
That car takes off, never stops. And then the men They drag him to the side of the road. One of them goes into his pockets, empties everything, and they take off.
John Fox, he says they all fled the scene, and then they all went back to the house, and they were all shaken up by this whole scenario.
It's almost like classic stupid kids, but there was a coldness about it as well.
Police begin to investigate the friends John Fox says took part in the scheme. And when they learn the home address of Anthony Fortunato, the pieces of the puzzle start to come together. Fortunato's house is next door to the Brooklyn home the detectives visited the night before, where a rogue computer was logged into the Wi-Fi.
So they go to Anthony Fortunato's house to talk to him, and he claims, yeah, I'll come talk to you. I'm just gonna get a lawyer and I'll come down to the station to talk to you guys.
But Fortunato never shows up at the precinct as promised.
Then suddenly we get a call from his mother stating that, well, Anthony can't come talk to you because he's in the hospital. He tried to kill himself. However, John Fox has implicated two other people, Gary Timmons and this other kid known as the Russian kid, Alex. So the investigators looking through MySpace with the information given to them by John Fox find out Russian kid's true identity is now revealed by someone by the name of Ilya Shurov. So now investigators can go talk to them.
Fox, Timmons, and Shirov all confess to their roles in the attack, pointing to Fortunato as the mastermind of the plan. Meanwhile, at Brookdale Hospital, Michael Sandy's family is facing a terrible choice.
So Michael Sandy's in the hospital unconscious. He's dying. He's not going to recover. The doctors know this. Doctors make the family aware of this. And he will never be the person that he was.
On October 12th, Michael Sandy spends his 29th birthday with his family holding vigil in his ICU room. They know they are spending their final moments with him.
They wanted to wait so that he didn't die on his birthday.
So a day after his 29th birthday, his family made that awful, awful decision.
I received a call from Mrs. Sandy and said, you know, we took Michael off life support. So, just always thinking that this can't be true, but, you know, these emotions just kind of come over you. And I'm still trying to process it. But, you know, you kind of go through those moments when you can and be supportive for the family. But you kind of just feel your whole body collapse in that moment. It takes your breath away, you know, in that moment.
You need to let him go. You feel robbed. You know, you really, especially when it comes with an act that has such malice for anything of joy and life and love.
Investigators now have statements from 3 of their suspects, but they still can't speak with Anthony Fortunato, the alleged mastermind of the scheme, who remains hospitalized after his suicide attempt. While they wait for his condition to improve, they execute a search warrant at his home.
We go back out to the location, and when law enforcement gets there, they said, all right, you're looking for computers, here's our computer. This is the only computer we have. But we're able to actually look at the computer and immediately say, no, that's not the computer we're looking for, because, you know, it is mapped to the manufacturer. And in this case, we knew we were looking for a Dell computer. The computer that they happened to like pull out of a hat and say was the only computer in the house was not a Dell. So we were like, no, try again. And they didn't have any other computers that they were willing to voluntarily turn over. So a search of the residence commenced as authorized by the search warrant. Hidden in the basement was a Dell laptop. That was the computer that was connected to the IP address that was connected to Fisheye Fox during the crime. So we knew we found what we were looking for. It basically was the smoking gun.
By the time Fortunato is released from the hospital, Kings County prosecutors are prepared to act. They now have everything they need to file charges of attempted robbery and manslaughter, but they're also considering a unique enhancement to the charges that's rarely been tried before.
This was a real social problem that people were being targeted as victims of a crime because they belonged to certain groups. And in this case, they were looking to select a gay person, and that's what they did. That is the element that establishes the hate crime.
Four men are facing charges in the attack that killed Michael Sandy. And prosecutors are prepared to also try them on a rare and untested set of charges.
This was one of the first cases I can recall clearly where the hate crimes enhancement was actually used in New York State for an anti-gay murder. And I think it was important for the community for this to be called what it was. It had a lot of meaning for people.
On October 25th, 2006, John Fox, Ilya Shurov, and Anthony Fortunato are indicted on charges of second-degree murder, attempted robbery, and manslaughter as a hate crime. That same day, Gary Timmons, who was a minor at the time of the crime, pleads guilty to attempted robbery in the second degree.
You want to make sure that when a case is tried as a hate crime, it has to specifically plug into the statutes of the hate crimes law. And the sentence that is usually handed down is a much heavier sentence.
But as the date of trial approaches in October 2007, nearly a year to the day from the attack on Michael at Plum Beach, Anthony Fortunato's attorney mounts a stunning defense to the hate crime charges.
Fortunato tried to pull a rabbit out of the hat and said it can't be a hate crime because he came out of the closet himself. He identified himself as being a gay man and said that because he's gay, it can't be a hate crime because you can't hate gay people if you're gay also.
It was an extremely flimsy defense legally because hate is not an aspect of the crime itself. That's not something that the prosecution has to establish in order to establish somebody's guilt of a hate crime. He could have mixed motives, but it doesn't get him off the hook. From the get-go, the whole plan was based on targeting a gay person.
John Fox and Anthony Fortunato are acquitted of murder, but convicted of manslaughter and attempted robbery as hate crimes, receiving sentences of 7 to 21 years. A month later, Ilya Shurov pleads guilty to the same charges and receives a sentence of 17.5 years. Gary Timmons, who testifies as a prosecution witness, receives a 4-year sentence.
When they were found guilty, it was a natural release to have some vindication, but I don't know about the justice part.
I absolutely cannot say as to whether or not justice was served in this case. Maybe it's for Michael's parents to answer that question, for Michael's soul or spirit to answer that question. even in an odd way for his perpetrators to answer that question. Because I would have a hard time feeling that justice were served if they did not come to understand the gravity and tragedy of what they did.
This case sort of impacted me on a personal level. Back in 2006, I was a single gay man on the internet, talking to people and meeting up with people. For all practical purposes, I could have been Michael Sandy.
Michael Sandy's closest friends are left with nothing now, except their memories, and a few artifacts of his last days, like this video from the fall of 2006, when he enjoyed a final evening out in Brooklyn with his friends.
Can I put my glasses on?
I've been single for like 5 years. I lived in Long Island forever. No one ever wanted to take me to dinner. No one to ever go out. You know, I moved here to find a husband. I mean, stop.
That is too much. You heard his laugh.
You know, I moved here to find a husband. I mean, stop.
He was a wonderful human being from head to toe.
Wonderful. Okay, it's rocking.
He exudes this wonderful light that shines and magical laughter and smiles. And we love life to the fullest.
Today was a sucky day, but at the same time, it makes me laugh so hard.
I know that if he was my boyfriend and was in love with me, I know he would be amazing. I cannot wait to see him.
I texted asking if she was okay, and she never texted back.
I asked her friends, acquaintances, anybody, if you have seen her, contact me. By 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm in full mode panic.
And then I told her, we need to go to Grand Rapids.
It was like time stood still. We knew something was wrong.
That's when I see blood. I'd yell at my girlfriend, call the cops, call the cops.
I opened the bag, and there were human limbs inside that bag.
I remember thinking, what kind of animal does this to a person?
Autumn 2018, Kalamazoo, Michigan. 31-year-old Ashley Young is pursuing her dream of becoming a language interpreter.
Ashley wanted to explore. She wanted to learn any culture. It didn't matter who you were, you know? She was gonna ask you questions and ask how your day was.
So let's talk about my morning and how amazing, and I promise none of this is exaggerated or made up. It is, you can't make this up, okay?
I always told her, you can do anything, you can be anything that you want. You just need to put your mind to it.
To make ends meet, Ashley works nights at a bank call center.
She loved that job. She was helping people with their accounts if they had questions, and she could put their mind at ease.
During the day, Ashley takes language classes at Kalamazoo Community College.
So anyways, have a good day. I really am gonna go get ready for class now, and sorry for talking a lot, but that's just me.
Ashley was positive, always positive. We called her Sunshine.
Today was a sucky day, but at the same time, it makes me laugh so hard.
Ashley was always on social media. She was the light, the conscience you never knew you really needed. And the times that you were frustrated, she put it in perspective for you. Like, you know, you could have it worse.
I hope I at least made you smile and made you realize that, you know, your day is probably going a hell of a lot better than mine.
I met Christine in 2002. Ashley and her mom were best buddies, and I had to be that step-parent. But we made it, you know. Ashley was just lovable and joyful.
I met Ashley the first day of 10th grade. We had a couple classes together, we had choir together. We'd sit in our car for hours just talking in her mom's driveway, listening to music, singing, and just being silly girls. And then after school, we're still inseparable.
After high school, Ashley puts her dreams of studying languages on hold. She works a series of jobs, and when she is 24 years old, she meets Moody Farran. The two quickly fall in love, and within a couple of years, are living together.
She had never really dated or been with anyone until Moody, and he was her first love. She adored him, and he adored her, and it was just like a little fairy tale.
Moody loved her, and he had already, gave her a promise ring. They were together almost 7 years.
But by 31, Ashley has decided to make big changes in her life. Not only is she in school working towards her dream job, but she also decides that it's time to end her long-time relationship.
She was trying to balance work and going to school, and they were both kind of just at a different point in their life.
After the breakup, on November 10th, 2018, she surprises her best friend Samantha with a trip to Detroit.
She took me to Detroit to go to a concert to go see Tash Sultana, an artist that I love. That trip was amazing.
This is Facebook Live, by the way.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, you look so pretty.
After our concert, we just talked about life, just talked about where we were both at that time, about her and Moody, and about how she was going to be moving out. She was nervous, but it gave her something to look forward to. When she brought me home, I didn't know that was going to be the last time I ever saw her.
A week later, on November 18th, Ashley meets her mom, Christine, to begin packing up her things from the home she shares with Moody.
Her and Moody were moving out of their apartment, so we put everything into storage for her.
Ashley asks her mom to come with her at the end of the month when she'll sign the lease on a new apartment.
Ashley was beyond ecstatic about getting this apartment. Talking to her, you would have thought she was winning $1 million. You would have thought she was decorating a mansion, the way she would talk. And that was the last time I saw Ashley.
On Wednesday, November 28th, the night before Ashley is scheduled to sign her lease, she goes out for the evening. Ashley checks in with her mom, but does not say where she is headed or who she is meeting.
The last time I got a message from Ashley was at 5:55. And she said that she was almost to her destination. That's not Ashley. Ashley would say,
I'm at Walmart or
Yeah, wherever she was, but she said destination.
The morning of the lease signing comes, and Christine does not hear from Ashley.
I sent her a message first thing in the morning. I'm like, where are you? Where are you? And all day. I'm not getting anything. There was something wrong. I called Ashley's work, but nobody has heard from her. And that's when it starts hitting me. Where is she? And it just snowballs from there. You're not answering. I am worried. You don't tell people where you are going. You don't have to tell me, but damn it, you need to tell someone. I need to know you're okay. You need to contact someone and let somebody know. November 30th in the morning, I called the police to file a missing persons report.
Officers talked to some people that were close to Ashley to see if they knew where she was or could account for her whereabouts, and they could not. When we get a missing person report and the person happens to be 31 years old, that could mean a number of things. Maybe the person doesn't want to be found or is just away with friends and having a good time. So it's generally not assigned to a full-blown investigation at that point.
But Ashley's loved ones have a sinking feeling something is wrong. And they know that this is all happening in the wake of a big breakup.
When she broke up with Moody, I think, Moody didn't really want it.
When somebody goes missing, especially young women, a partner or a potential partner, somebody that they know and that they trust or that they're potentially intimate with, tends to be the person that might harm them.
As the day goes on and you're not hearing anything, panic starts to set in. So I called Moody and I asked him, where is she?
Investigators catch a glimpse of Ashley's final moments.
You can see him kind of turn around, he's pointing at something, he's talking to somebody, and then eventually Ashley joins him.
And race to determine who she was with.
He seemed to be a person prone to violence and unpredictable.
Before the unthinkable happens.
I tell the dispatcher, I need officers fast.
I see a lot of death. This one stands out in my career as a horrific scene.
November 30th, 2018. 31-year-old Ashley Young has not contacted her family in more than 24 hours.
At midnight, I'm flipping out a little bit. By 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm in full mode panic. And I remember I called my supervisor. And I said, I'm not going to be in today. And she said, okay, is there anything I can do? The first words out of my mouth were pray. Just needed to pray.
Ashley's family is worried her disappearance might have something to do with her recent breakup with her boyfriend, Moody.
Prior to them actually breaking up, Ashley told me there had been a couple arguments and their relationship did hit a couple walls.
But Moody appears genuinely distraught about Ashley's disappearance.
He starts panicking because he don't know where Ashley is, and that's why he got with us in the middle of the night. Moody was right there with us, looking for her. And he was so hurt and so upset. Moody loved her, and I knew she loved him too.
When Moody provides police with information about his whereabouts for the past several days, he is cleared by law enforcement. Christine makes a plea to Ashley's friends.
I put out on Facebook that I haven't heard from her, can't get in contact with her. I asked her friends, acquaintances, anybody, if you have seen her, contact me.
Meanwhile, Christine uncovers a possible lead on Facebook.
Christine goes into her daughter's Facebook activity and is able to see that she's been communicating with a person named Jared Chance in recent days.
Jared Chance is an old friend of Ashley's.
6 years ago, they spent a lot of time together hanging out as friends. There might have been an attraction there, but Ashley was not that type because she was in that relationship with Moody. And then Jared disappeared. So she never heard from him in 6 years. During our trip to Detroit to go to the concert, she had said that he was really reaching out. They started talking more and more, and then Jared called her because he needed a ride home. And so she went and helped him. And so then he wanted to take her out as a thank you.
In the wake of her breakup with Moody, Ashley has just begun to dip her toes into the dating pool.
She was texting me about having feelings for Jared, just asking for advice on what do you think I should say? Should I say this or should I say that? And I just want to get it perfect.
Ashley leaves another friend a voicemail expressing her excitement about Jared.
Jared is so hard to read, but I know that if he was my boyfriend and he actually was in love with me, I know he would be amazing. I cannot wait to see him on
Wednesday, November 28th, the night Ashley vanished.
Once I found out that Ashley was with Jared, I asked if anybody had his phone number.
One of Ashley's friends does. So Christine calls Jared to see if he can help.
She asks him, "Do you know where my daughter is? Do you have any information?" And he said that they were actually together the previous night, but that she went home and that he has no idea what happened to her.
Jared said that Ashley and him had been to Mulligan's Bar in Easttown, Grand Rapids. And then I told Christine, we need to go to Grand Rapids. We need to go see where she was, follow her footsteps.
Grand Rapids is about an hour north of Kalamazoo, where Ashley lives.
Grand Rapids is a college town. It's a huge city. It's the second largest city in the state of Michigan.
Ashley's moms arrive at Mulligan's on November 30th.
So I talked with the bartender at Mulligan's, and we were able to go look at the security footage. You could see Jared and Ashley wandering around the bar. She ordered a drink. She's smiling. She's laughing. She's being Ashley. I wanted to pull her off the screen and take her home.
But the footage doesn't show her leaving the bar. Despair and desperation start sinking in for Ashley's loved ones.
It was like time stood still, in a sense, and you just had that pit in your stomach. You knew something was wrong.
And we just went, driving around Grand Rapids looking for Ashley. We walked down the railroad tracks. We poked around ponds, lakes.
There was nothing. It's almost like you think you're dreaming, but you're not dreaming. Everything was a wild goose chase.
Friday, November 30th, 2018. Christine Young has had no luck finding her missing daughter, Ashley. but she has discovered that Ashley was last seen at a bar with a friend named Jared Chance on the night she disappeared. She takes what she's learned to the Grand Rapids police.
Christine Young asked for the police department to help, but if it was Jared, we need evidence, you know. You can develop theories, but theories won't get you a search warrant. Theories won't get you an arrest warrant. You need evidence. You need facts.
Frustrated, Christine reaches out again to Jared. He previously told her that he and Ashley went their separate ways after going to the bar on November 28th. She begs him to share anything else he can remember.
And that's when he told me about Demetrius.
Jared says Ashley was talking to a guy he knows named Demetrius Taylor that night at the bar. The relentless mothers track him down.
When we got there, he's like, I don't know, Ashley. I don't know your daughter at all. And he opened up his phone and showed the text messages where Jared said, hey, Ashley's mom's gonna call you, and you have to say that Ashley was just with you, and you guys were just together. And Christine was reading it, and she's like, no. Demetrius said, you can copy it, give it to the police, whatever you need to do. Even though we didn't know him, we kind of hit it off. And because he was compassionate and was understanding what Christine was going through, and he said he has kids, he understands.
After that point, I think everybody kind of knew that we just didn't get the whole story from Jared.
It just became more and more plain that Jared was trying to stall.
I had always told her that I didn't think that he was good for her. I didn't think that he necessarily had the best intentions for her, or that he knew how to be a good man.
Christine and Dana decide to head to Jared's apartment to confront him face to face. That same afternoon, a resident of downtown Grand Rapids makes a shocking discovery.
I was living in Grand Rapids on Franklin Street. 2 apartments downstairs, single father, custody of my 12-year-old daughter. My girlfriend had been complaining about a bad smell in the apartment for, about a day and a half. And me, I'm thinking, it's dead mice in the walls or something. But the smell was definitely strong. My cat runs in the basement. So I had to go to retrieve my cat. So I opened the door so the light from the day could shine down into the basement so I could see. As I go down the stairs, I see the tarp on the floor. That's when I see blood. I make it to the top of the stairs at full speed. I'd yell at my girlfriend, call the cops, call the cops.
Our house been having a real bad smell lately. So I just went in the basement, opened the basement door, there's a tarp, and what looks like it could be blood leaking from it. And I want the police to come here ASAP right now and look at it.
Alright, so it's the lower level apartment?
Yes.
I'm not the smartest man in the world, but there's blood, there's trouble. I'm thinking I'm a father, like I have a daughter at home. Like, I need officers fast.
Please, sir, somebody right now, because I don't know what it is, but it looks like blood is leaking from it, and I'm not going to touch the tarp or anything like that.
GRPD showed up at that address not too long afterwards. Like most police agencies, you know, they all have body cameras on now.
Okay. Where are we going? Share basement?
And so we're able to watch the officers go into the basement. And it's like watching a horror movie, because they're going through this darkened basement that's lit by flashlights. They look at the tarp and see something that they will never ever forget.
Everybody back out. Let's just get in there. Everybody back out. Let's just get in there.
On December 2nd, 2018, Grand Rapids police officers make a horrific discovery in the basement of an apartment building.
I'm standing in the driveway like, oh, this can't be. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not real. This is not happening. The police asked me, can they search my house? Of course, like, please.
Among the officers who respond is the detective who Christine has asked for help in her search for Ashley.
By the time I got there, there were officers in front and back of the house, making sure that nobody went in or came out without us knowing it.
Okay, the tarp is laying on the stairs, the last 3 stairs.
I then entered the house, went down into the basement where this tarp was found. So this tarp was quite large and it had a zipper on it. I unzipped the bag and we then discovered the body of a woman with the arms and legs and head missing. I remember thinking, who are we dealing with here? You know, what kind of animal does this to a person?
Police have now discovered this horrendous scene, and they know that they have a body, but all of the identifying features have been removed, so they don't know who is dead and they don't know who potentially killed them. There's multiple occupants in this multi-dwelling residence.
Police on the third floor! Come to the door!
Who do you think they found living in the upstairs apartment?
What's your name? What's your last name? Your chance?
Jared was secured in a police car and transported to our headquarters. It didn't take long to realize that this case was going to be different than most.
I see a lot of death, all methods, and this one, it stands out in my career as a horrific scene. I went up the stairs looking for the rest of the body. When I entered the second level apartment, there was a large brown stain on the kitchen floor. I look in the bathroom and noted there wasn't a shower curtain in the bathtub.